I hate publicizing that we're recording because then people might not show up. So if that was one of you, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. All right. My name is Joe Swenson. I'm the president of Broken Arts Entertainment. We are joined today by our director of learning and development, Dana Hall, who is a very accomplished playwright out of Chicago. Her show, Refracted Lights, is being produced pretty much everywhere at this point. But she has other shows as well. And Broken Arts Entertainment has produced four, three, four,
Yeah,
four
four.
of Dana
Four.
Hall's show, maybe five.
We'll see.
I don't want to give anything away, but if she's on Slack, she would know that she is going to have a show in Loved Ones season 3. And then we are also joined by Emmy Award winner and O'Neill finalist Scott Sickles.
Hello.
Scott, you're based in New York, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, based in the city, but you are you from Pittsburgh originally?
I am originally from Pittsburgh. Yes.
Yeah, originally from Pittsburgh. And Scott, along with John Busser, has been produced 5 times by Broken Arts Entertainment. So, and that's the most of any of our writers, though there are others chasing you at this point. And he may or may not have a show that's going to be in Love One season 3. We don't want to give it away yet. Yeah, so welcome Scott, welcome Dana. We're gonna talk for the next 2 hours. So I hope everybody first of all, one of the ground rules we have to put into place right out of the gate is we have a Broken Arts Entertainment rule. So first of all, welcome to our guests that are not Broken Arts Entertainment. That would be Deborah. And I saw, where did he leave? Oh, there he is. And Charles Goss. You guys are not Broken Arts Entertainment. So I just want to make sure you guys understand one of our rules, and it's going to come up a lot. So make sure that you are ready to hydrate. We enjoy staying hydrated here at Broken Arts Entertainment. So every time you hear the word compelling, you have to take a drink.
Oh no.
And it can be any beverage, not just adult beverages. If we do adult beverages over the next 2 hours, every time we hear the C word, it's going to get crazy up in here.
Truths will be revealed. The more
Exactly.
we are compelling.
Exactly. So a couple of real, just quick things right out of the gate. I got to meet Dana in person. She's been a member of our company since 2023. Got to meet Dana in person in 2024, which was awesome. And went to dinner, and a couple of playwrights in the Chicago area got together with, like, DC Cartha. I've been threatening to meet and have lunch or whatever with Scott every time I'm in New York City, but we have yet to get together. But at some point we will, I promise. But yeah, these I have read so many of Scott's shows and so many of Dana's shows. And if you haven't had a chance to read their shows, I would say get out there and read their shows. They are beautiful shows and wonderful shows. And we are lucky to have both of them here to talk about what we're going to do. So, would you guys like to? I know I introduced you, so you introduce you sort of, but would you like to introduce yourselves to our class, our group of people?
No.
Sure. Scott, you want
Hey.
me to introduce you?
And now we have conflict.
I can read your NPX description.
It's always terrible when I hear my bio read out loud. I'm like, oh God, that asshole. But yeah, no, I'm Scott Sickles. I'm a playwright. I've been a produced playwright since 1988, and have the mountain of rejections, both on paper and electronically, to document that. I am apparently better at social media than I thought I was because people think I'm produced more often than I am. I will frequently be congratulated for the same 10-minute play. And you think that it's happening 4 times and it's not, it's happening once. But I've written a lot of full-length plays. And as Joe mentioned, I'm an Emmy winner. That's why I have the blur background on, because they're behind me and I'm not moving them. So, I was lucky enough to win too, but I also lost 11 times, so I can smile and clap through literally anything. Um, yeah, and I have right now I have 2 plays going up in rep, part of an insane collaboration commission with Drops in the Vase Theater, and a place that a co-writer and I were sort of just commissioned out of the blue to work together and figure out and write, and we're very pleased that they're in rehearsal now. They open in May, and that's what's up with me. So Dana, take it away. Dana's
Awesome. Thank you, Scott.
compelling.
Oh,
Oh, here we go.
I am much more compelling after you drink, I've heard. So there's that. Yeah, so as Joe said, I'm a Chicago-based playwright, actor, and mental health therapist. So today I'm going to be kind of wearing two of those hats, a little bit of the playwriting hat, as well as I wanted to bring a little bit more of the psychology of what we do as playwrights, and to add some conversation around the neurological principles behind rejection sensitivities, and kind of what kind of frame some of that, as we know this profession relies on other people reading our works, and sometimes they reject us and that hurts. And so I wanted to talk about why it hurts and kind of how we can move through that. For me, I've been an author for a long while, but I've been a playwright for not as long. So I'm honored to be included with contemporaries such as Joe and Scott and those that are on this call who've been doing the craft likely longer than I have, as I've been writing plays since really the pandemic and taking courses with the Dramatists Guild Institute. I'm in residency with them. I've been fortunate to be a semifinalist with the O'Neill. I've won the John Clark Memorial Prize. I've been placed several times with Lanford Wilson as a finalist and semifinalist. So I've been fortunate to have those types of successes, but I've also been rejected a lot as a newbie out there, and it hurts. And so I wanted to bring kind of some context around how we can support ourselves and our community as we move through things like rejection.
That is awesome. I mean, it's not awesome to feel rejected, but it is awesome that you are here. And I haven't been writing much longer than you, Dana. I started writing, I think, in 2015 with We Are the Broken People. I tried to write some plays before that, but I don't know what I was thinking at that time. And yeah, I mean, it's prolific is, I think, a word that I use with you and Scott and myself and Randy and Hannah and a couple of Deborah, like the amount of plays that the writers that I just talked about have put out or have at least written in the last 5 years is really impressive. So yeah, we have a bunch of different sections that we're going to go over today. So just want to kind of set the ground rules. So we've got the opening, which we just did, basically. We're going to talk a little more about some essential questions that are involved in that. We're going to talk about the reality of rejection in playwriting. That's going to be a fun one because we're going to tell some stories. We're going to talk about the neuropsychology of rejection as well, which Dana's going to cover. We're also going to go through whoops, I skipped one. Nope, I did not. I lied. Then we're going to do the inspiration of framework. So we're going to really get to the meat of developing plays, how you work through your plays. Then we're going to talk about integrating emotional truth and craft and sustaining the creative life. And then if we have time, we might do an interactive exercise, TBD. We'll call that TBD. Nice. So Dana has put some questions in the chat, and we are definitely interested in having this be interactive. And part of that interaction involves you, our wonderful people that have joined us today. So the first question that Dana has asked is, and I probably should just let Dana do this. She has a way better voice than I do about things. What does it mean to live a creative life in a field where rejection is the norm?
Yeah. And feel free, folks, if you're more comfortable to chat, go ahead, and I'll try to monitor the chat as we go along. And as the three of us kind of gossip here about these topics, feel free to add in your own comments as well, whether they're on topic or not. We will get to them. But these are some essential questions to consider. Right. So any answers are fine, or any questions are fine as well, as we kind of move through the reality of rejection in playwriting. And I know we all have our stories. As Helen said, low expectations in acceptance rate. Yeah, that's fair. There's we know, and folks, maybe you may not know, but there's a play submission helper. NPX also offers opportunities at times. the play submission groups on Facebook can be a place. The Playwright Connection, at times we also will repost those too. If you're looking for places to find opportunities, Broken Arts Entertainment will also post on their Facebook page as well as their website. So there's places that you can kind of lean into. Rejection means tracking a spreadsheet that has way more rows highlighted in red for rejection than green for accepted. Yes, Randy, I think all of our spreadsheets might look a little similar there. I what I find with spreadsheets that tie into rejection sensitivity is, yes, when you look at that list, it might be overwhelming to see that you've been rejected X number of times and only accepted X number of times. However, if we look at that as data points and we take the personalization out of it, we weren't rejected. A piece didn't fit for X number of reasons. And before you all joined us, Scott was sharing some of that, as well as Joe and I, about the bias that can happen within theater organizations and within the readers of those organizations. So the piece wasn't accepted. Randy wasn't rejected, though. Randy's wonderful. The piece didn't fit for X number of reasons, right? It wasn't their flavor. And so if we look at that as data points versus personalization, it can kind of help the sting a little bit. But no doubt it still stings. Yeah.
I will say to Hannah's point about submit it and forget it. So I started off with spreadsheets when I was submitting everywhere, and I stopped because I was like, this is confirming my nose versus creating momentum. So but everybody works differently, and everybody, uses, some people are fueled by rejection and the chip on the shoulder.
Yeah. And in a conversation with DC, he shared that, and I think like many of us, we might resubmit to the same theater, though, is the only caveat there, to be cautious, because we want to let them know that we're respecting their readership. And if they've already rejected us and we haven't made any edits, we probably should perhaps move on to another place that might fit better, unless you've made some edits and want to resubmit. But sometimes the tracking can help for that reason. But if you're not a serial submitter, then, and you know what you're submitting to where, and you track your emails perhaps, that could be another way around it.
Scott, you were going to say something?
I have several ADHD related issues to submission tracking because sometimes it's executive function. I don't have the spoons, and it's like I have the energy to make the submission or record the submission. I cannot do both. And if I don't make the submission, I don't have to record the submission. But if I do make the submission, I won't record the submission. And the only time I have any reminder of that submission was even made is when I get the rejection. So it's like, oh, well, that's a little gift. But yeah, it's and sometimes I get when I'm good at recording. I use Play Submissions Helper, so I'll go through that and I'll put in what I have submitted, and sometimes I will remember to go in and put whether it was accepted or rejected. One way to make it not so depressing is only record your acceptances. Record your semifinalists. Just everything else. If it was rejected or you didn't hear back, leave it blank, and then it just doesn't look like a bloodbath. But yeah, and the other problem I have with tracking is when people talk about ADHD, the way I do it is like there's the brain and the consciousness. It's like the brain is this evil thing, and the consciousness is what the brain lets itself know. And I will try not to submit. I will look and see if I have what plays I've submitted to an opportunity in the past, and try not to resubmit that one act. There are theaters I've submitted the same one act to 3 times because every time I looked, my brain did not let me see it.
Right.
And it's just like, and then after it's submitted, I'll look again. I'm like, how did this happen? Because I know that I checked. So yeah, I mean, we can shoot ourselves in the foot, and maybe the reason I did not get accepted the third time is because they rejected it 2 times before, and I'm like sending them nothing new. And I think that and at some point, I don't really think they remember who makes these mistakes. But they'll remember you if you're rude to them. But if you accidentally say the thing, again, they're going to be like, did we know this? And chances are the same person isn't even going to look, but you never know.
Right. But rejection is not a reason to stop submitting, right? Maybe to certain places. The next question that we have on the essential questions is: what stories are we compelled to tell, even when the world says no?
Um, you you're writing the thing that you want to write. You're right. It is a passion project. Everything you're inspired to write things about the world, and you're going to write the things that you want to write. And if you come up
Mm-hmm.
with an idea, and then suddenly you see that there are 17 plays about them being produced, all the same thing all over the world, maybe you don't want to do that. But by the same token, if there's only one, your take is going to be different from that take if it's just a subject. Um, and the thing is it was a screenwriting book that I read. I don't remember which one, but the sentiment holds true. You are the market. You control the market. You're the one who is putting things out there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that will happen is that some people um, send a play out there. They have the right voice, the right play, the right something or other at the right time, and it just catches fire.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Christian Sanqua's Monsters of American Cinema,
Ah, so good.
um, boom, it just ignited.
Mhm.
And that's something we're going to be talking about a little bit later. It's just like, what do you do when someone else has this
Yeah.
great success and you don't? But it's just you know you cannot predict these things. Christian did not write this play thinking, oh, you know what? By the time I finish this, it's going to fit into the zeitgeist so perfectly. It's going to explode across the world. No, you
Yeah.
wrote the thing because he was passionate about it. He wrote the story he wanted to tell. So you just write the story you want to tell, and just be open about, like, is it whether or not it's reaching people the way you want it to reach people, or in an effective way, or are there better
Mhm.
ways? Still be
Yeah.
be the playwright. Raise the child. Um,
Right.
but uh, but yeah, you don't you you can't think, oh well, you know what? I'm not going to write my science fiction farce because farce is old and science fiction is write your science fiction farce.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. I
Yeah,
love that. Bring your voice to it. Write
yeah.
what compels you to be a writer. Write what, for me, a lot of my plays are about memory, echoes of memories, injustice, longing, finding truth, this sort of thing. I'm from Chicago, so I like local history. As a woman, I want to lean into narratives that I feel like haven't been really talked about or produced. It really matters to me. Representation really matters. And knowing that historically about 20 to 30% of plays produced in professional theaters are written by women, that's not a great number for us. And about only 10% of Broadway plays were written by women. So write your narratives, put out your stories. And the more that we write, the more I think we do change the lexicon. We change the way that information is then received when we have more of it out there, and those narratives get more mainstream. So whoever you are, wherever you are, write your story, because no one can write it like you. So many young playwrights, young to the profession, will say, well, somebody already wrote this. Well, you didn't. Write your take on it, your angle on it. Because as a psychologist, I can tell you, your lived experience is your expertise. So bring you to the script. So someone else gets an opportunity. I learned this early on. Boy, there's a production house produces plays, Smith and Krause, lovely organization. Many folks on this call have been produced with them. My first time out of the gate writing a play, I was aiming for that. I was rejected. I went through, I can't even describe it. I've had tremendous losses in my life. For some reason, the Smith and Krause rejection took me off the internet. It made me doubt my self-worth. Like, I was in the pits of it, and I was young too. This was one of my first works ever, and I was personally rejected is how I took it. They didn't know me from Adam, but I felt that so deeply to my core. And then everyone, as Scott was talking that he's going to speak on this, friends, so many people. It feels like when those announcements go out, everyone you know is accepted. It feels like when you're rejected. I'm like, how did all these people get accepted? And I love these people, and I don't want to look at their faces posting their little, oh, it's such an honor. I'm like, such an honor it is. No, but those feelings are very real, because for our sense of safety and security, we attach ourselves to communities. And when we don't feel an acceptance by a community, it feels like a rejection of personhood. And that's where I think some of us might get stuck in our journey too, of that vulnerability struggle. I don't want to write the thing and get rejected. I took a vulnerability risk and it wasn't received in the way I thought it was going to be. What does that mean? And we kind of struggle with that question. What does it mean? What doesn't it mean? So yes, write the plays. Even if, someone else wrote on the topic, write your take on it. Why not? I would not have written the play that Scott wrote that got him, the O'Neill finalist spot. I wouldn't have written that. Lovely play. I couldn't write it. I wouldn't have written it. It was not in my, so why would I feel any kind of way about him receiving that honor? I could never write it. So that really perspective hit me during that time, was like, oh yeah, I never would have written the stories that they all wrote. So it took nothing from me to celebrate their wins, because I could never produce that. I could never create that. So something to kind of think about is that uniqueness of perspective, and that may help us to be more celebratory to our peers as well.
And I also think when you're thinking about what to write, unless you can think of a real like, unless your idea is like not going to germinate the way you need it to, and other people have done it, in this way, it's like, oh well, yeah, okay, they said everything that I've said, and I, that I wanted to say, but they did it better than I ever could. Tony Kushner, thank you very much. Not writing my own
Right.
Angels in America anymore. Oh well. But the thing is that what we have to remember 99% of the time is that rejecting our work is someone else's job. We should not be doing it to ourselves. We need to be the ones who are creating the thing that gets rejected. And God forbid gets accepted. I got accepted recently, and I was reading the first part. I'm like, this is a very baffling rejection, because I'm like, wait, why should I go there if you're not? Oh wait, you are doing it. It's just like, I didn't know. I've become so accustomed to getting the no that it's just like, oh, okay. I need to take a second to process this, because I wasn't expecting a yes. But yeah, that's the thing. Don't pre-reject yourself. I have a play about Boris Pasternak, his mistress, or Olga Ivanskaya, and the creation of Dr. Zhivago, which I will actually mention on another topic later. But I wrote this thing, and as I was writing it, because I was this woman who had allegedly inspired the romantic lead in Dr. Zhivago had just died. She had this very fascinating memoir that was out. Her obituary was amazing, and I was inspired to write this play about her and Pasternak and Dr. Zhivago. And just as I was writing it, we were doing stage readings of it. There was a screenwriter that had just hit Hollywood for a fairy tale theater episode that he had done, and it was just announced in Movie Line magazine, if you're old enough to remember that he had this great screenplay that was being shopped around Hollywood about Olga Ivanskaya and Boris Pasternak and the creation of Dr. Zhivago, and they were looking at Emily Watson, Laura Dern to play this woman, and it was just all over town. And I asked my agent, I'm like, should I even bother writing this play? And she's like, don't even worry about it. One, the movie never got made. Two, a friend of mine actually got me a copy of that screenplay, and I'd never read it. I just leafed through it, and there is not a single moment that I covered that I discovered there that was written the way I would have written it. And was it good? Yeah, the scene that I saw was, it was perfectly fine. It was fascinating. The few scenes I saw, but I wrote taking the same subject matter with the same primary source, which was a memoir, and therefore was vast. I created my narrative. They created their narrative. They were about the same thing, about the same people in the same period of time, two completely different works of art. And even though that screenplay was never produced, it still exists out there. It's there. It was not a waste of time.
And in the
Yeah.
moment, I mean, one of the things that writing does, as like Deborah just said, is, that she has to, like, there's a cathartic piece of writing that even if it doesn't ever get produced, it's still something that you get on the page, that you get out of your system, that you feel in the moment. I have a show called Joey that I don't think will ever be produced, but it was, I needed to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it
Believe
was, it's a great show, impossible to produce, I think, but that's sometimes why we write, is just to get it out there. Scott's
Yeah.
like, Ed.
I'm remembering about it. Just like this is not too impossible to produce. Emerging Artist Theater Sparks Festival. I'm going to tell you about that because that is one of those produce it yourself festivals,
Mhm.
and you pay no submission fee, you pay no participation fee. You do split the box office to a certain extent, and everything above that you get to keep.
Mhm.
So you do have to get a certain number of people in order to make that. But I mean, I've done it a couple of times, and one time I'm like, they're like, oh, and here's your money. I'm like, I did not think I was getting money. They give you like 1.5 times your running time for tech time, I believe it is.
Oh, wow.
And so I think we had an hour long show. We had 90 minutes for tech, and it was a one performance thing. But it's just it's a great um, festival, and that's where that's where something like Joey could be done for like on one night only
Yeah.
yeah and people would come in, you could get people to come and see it. And so these venues exist. You just have to be very careful with them. But it's also and that's a thing that where if you don't get accepted into it, there's a very good chance that they had too many things like it, or they did not have the resources to do it properly. And if you've
Right.
described it as, like it's this story, it's about this, it requires this many actors, which they don't have to pay for. They just, if it's like 40 actors, then they won't be able to accommodate in the dressing room. But and these are the technical requirements.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then yeah, and it's just like and it's really the at that point the luck of the draw and what they think might be great, and and what will go well with that festival to make it an eclectic festival. So
Yeah. And I
Awesome.
like that when we say I have to write because it's my sanity, right? There's something deeply profound and psychological about that. That we are all creatives, but also writing and storytelling is not just a creative act. It is a psychological act of emotional processing. It helps organize our brain. There's a form of therapy called narrative therapy, which involves a lot of storytelling because what it does is organize the various centers of the brain cohesively to get out
Mhm.
an output. In order to do that, different centers kind of have to pass through and put it together so you can have that output. Not all of us write from our own personal traumas, but some of us find that our work will echo something, a little remnant or this or that, or it's built into our character struggles. Sometimes it's right on the nose, sometimes it's a little bit more skewed. But in general, the act of writing is about emotional processing and self regulation. So, for those that have found this outlet, it has become like our therapy. It has become a part, we know these characters, they've become friends or enemies of ours. We sit with them for hours in the dark in our head and we listen to their stories. I mean, it is quite an extensive process to put together in language what we do. So, creativity, yes, but so many other mechanisms in there that we use, you know.
Let's get into the reality of rejection. This is where Scott becomes a star. Oh, actually, he's already a star. I don't know if you know this or not, Scott. I don't. You're a celebrity within Broken Arts Entertainment. Like, we
not
have a
sure that I'm
few.
a celebrity, so
I mean, the second that, because again, everything's anonymous with the selection process, but the second that we find out that we have a Scott Sickles show and an anthology, it becomes a big deal. Everybody wants to be in the show. Everybody wants to direct it. Everybody wants to produce it. So yeah, so you're a well-known entity within our cultish community.
that is lovely to hear. That makes me feel good. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's an acceptance. Yeah.
That's an acceptance. Well, let's talk about rejection.
Let's do that. Yeah. Off topic. Digression. Digression for you. Catcher in the Rye fans out there. But yeah.
Yeah, so let's because one of the things that you talked about when we were offline there with Dana and I was how you just that you get constantly rejected. And at the beginning of this conversation that you have like people think you're massively produced because you're so good at social media now. But let's talk about some stories that you have, because I know you have a bunch of them. Now, and I don't mean that as in, but we all get rejected, right? We're all getting rejected.
Oh yeah, sure. But honestly, I wish I were getting rejected more because like what's happening is like my jealousy has shifted from like people saying, "Hey, I got into this." It's like, "Oh, I wish I got into this." It's just like I wish I had submitted to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There have been times when like I will put a submission opportunity in my calendar. I will open it up, and of course, like ADHD, you shut it, and then you forget about it until the exact moment that submission opportunity closes, and then it's just like boop 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 boop. I just discovered I missed Wild Imagining, so they can't reject me again this year. So I won. But yeah, it's just it's. I wish I were getting rejected more because I'm not submitting enough. Because I just went through. We were just talking on some post somewhere about a rejection slump or a submission slump. I'm like, are you just getting exhausted from it? And one way to avoid rejection is to avoid submitting. But and sometimes you need to take that breather. But you do need to kind of get back on that horse. A couple of rejections that my favorite bad rejection, and I do want to talk a little bit about rejections themselves, but this was back in the 90s. And in the 90s, for those of us who remember the late 20th century, we had to submit a hard copy of the script with a self-addressed stamped postcard to acknowledge receipt so they could send it back in a self-addressed stamped envelope so they could inform us of our rejection. Chances are, if we got it, they would call. But if we didn't, you would get your self-addressed stamped envelope back. One time I got the self-addressed stamped envelope back and I open up and there's a little envelope inside it and the little envelope says, and the winner is, and you open it up and there's a little card inside with not my fucking play. Just like,
It's just
so
cruel.
you got to actually announce in the privacy of your own home that somebody else won this award. And I'm sure they thought that, I mean, you have to assume like this, they're not doing this to torture you. They thought this was cute and clever and that everyone would enjoy this. And I'm just like, email didn't really exist at the time. And that's probably a good thing for these people. But yeah, I've actually gotten some fairly rude rejections from some fairly important people. There's a Broadway producer who rejected one of my plays, saying that I should go to the theater more and stop watching sitcoms. And like no, that play is Hairdresser on Fire. It is available at Next Stage Press, so fuck you. And also another the aforementioned play Lightning from Heaven about Pasternak, and a lot of that play is about silencing artists and silencing creative people. And this rejection happened during one of the W years. It was during Bush 2. And there was like even like Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon, who were a couple of the time, were very outspoken, and even they were being hushed. They were actually responding to being told not to say things. So the government was suppressing the political voices of creative people. And this particular very, very well-respected theater teacher said, and honestly, who cares about this in the rejection letter? Yeah, who cares about Boris Pasternak and this woman and Dr. Zhivago? Nobody cares. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine. But let's see. I do have a happier rejection story. But one of the things I did want to say about rejection in general is that I mean, we always, so many people complain about rejection emails, and frequently we see 1,000 posts from the same people who complain about, it's like, well, I got this in, it's like, oh, we had this many submissions and blah blah blah, and I don't care. And it's just as someone who has produced theater and had a theater company where I would take submissions from the membership and have to decide what went into the One Act Festival, I had to write rejection emails to everyone who did not get in. I would write every last one of them before the announcements were made. I would find out if the acceptances were accepted, and then I would have to write all the rejections. And there's like rejection letters are harder to write than artistic statements,
Mm.
and they are going to be immediately poorly received just because they're rejections. But when we're condemning the rejection letter and the rejection process, we have to bear in mind that it was no fun for anybody. The same is true with casting. If you've ever, like if you know you're an actor and you've never cast anything and you're like, oh my God, they hated me. Oh my God, why didn't they pick me? And then when you're on the other side of that table, when you're on the other side of that desk and you have to be the one who says no,
Mhm.
you realize that this is a burden, that this was not something that was flit. And there can be a little empathy towards the general process. Now, granted, there are people who don't deserve our empathy, and or they just made a ridiculous decision, and perhaps even told you why. But you just you believe me, you'll forget about those. I think the better rejections come with them when it's been personalized. When we really loved your play, however, I got this one that was supposed to be reassuring. It's just like we really wanted to do your play, but we only had 32 slots. I'm like, thanks.
Mhm.
Great, great, great. I did that. That was Road Theater, which they actually did Mariana's Trench during the pandemic, so that was nice. But that was like several years and several submissions later. But I have a long, epic tale about rejection, and um, let's just see. Yeah, well, I want to begin with this. It's my play Nonsense and Beauty, which is about E.M. Forster. And when he was in his 50s, he fell in love with this 28-year-old policeman who, because it was 1930s in England, this young man met this young woman and married her as a front, but also fell in love with her. And there was a bit of a early 20th century polyamory situation going on between them. It's just that ultimately, Ian Forster gives up his claim on this relationship, and he and the wife become incredibly close friends over the years. And 34 years later, after this affair has ended, the wife finds out about it, that her husband and their best friend not only did they have a relationship 34 years ago, but she was the other woman in their relationship.
Mm.
And the reason historically, and I'm telling you this because historically, they nobody really knows when she quite found out in real life. And I made this decision because I thought this was the most dramatically interesting situation. Because if she finds out right away, we've seen that play. If she finds out 34 years later, what do you do? What in God's name do you do? And I thought that was an interesting question. And the artistic director of a theater company came to see a reading of that play, and he was just simply outraged by that character decision because that decision was absolutely, absolutely unconscionable. It passed his moral event horizon where it was
Mhm.
impossible to care about anyone in this play because these people lied to her for 34 years, and that is unforgivable. That play had existed for 24 years at the time, and that was the first time anyone had complained about that scene.
Mm.
So at that particular moment, it's like, that sounds like a you problem. That does not sound like
Yeah.
a problem with the play. If it were a problem with the play, other people, like one other person in 24 years would have mentioned this issue. But people had responded to it with just like, oh my God, what would I do? If I were in that situation, this person reacted, and like I now know based on that reaction that nothing I ever said in that theater company is ever being done there. And I didn't even talk to him after
Yeah.
that. I didn't even know about it until I was told. He didn't talk to me, and I was like, so and so is not talking to me. Did he hate the play? Yes, he did, and here's why. But interestingly enough, that particular reading was part of a longer process. Nonsense. I wrote it under the. This is going to get a little long. I apologize. I wrote it under the title Shepherd's Bush, which was a placeholder title, a neighborhood in London. And the first draft was written in 1995. And by 1999, 2000, it had been rejected by every single theater in the company. It got me several staged readings. It had actually got me an agent who I am still with today. But it had been soundly rejected, and I put it away. Like no one was doing this. Additionally, it was rejected by a Broadway producer whose associate producer was the wife of my director. So sometimes it does not, in fact, matter who you know. I had a director who was
Mhm.
the wife of a major producer, and they said no. I put it away, and then in 2014, I submitted to Gulf Shore Playhouse. because they wanted new plays, unproduced plays for their New Works Festival, and the plays I had written in between were had already been produced because I had a theater company that would produce my work. But this one I had not produced it there, so I submitted it. It got in, and it got another. It had a nice run, and then later on, but it was still not getting accepted for production anywhere. So this is, you know. I wrote a blog post for that festival called "My 19-Year-Old New Play," because it was 19 years old at the time and it was unproduced. And and it's like, you know, 19 years of rejection and stasis. And then I had my agent send it to Seth Gordon at Repertory Theater St. Louis because Seth had directed a reading of it in 1996. Mind you, this is over 20 years later, and he's like, I love this play. I'm shocked that it has not been produced. Yes, let's include it in our new play festival reading series. So it's getting yet another reading. It has been 2 decades and change of readings. And in that particular instance, they do 3 plays in that reading series. One of them gets selected for a slot in their production season the following year. And given who the other 2 plays were written about, I knew it was not going to be me. And then it was me.
Mm.
I actually have my one Lort credit is the production that came to this because despite 20 years of rejection, I asked. I put it forward to someone who had known it from before, and I didn't want to reach out to them because they knew the play, they knew it was there. It had not been in their it had been in my consciousness. It had not been in their consciousness. And they were like, "Oh yeah, I love this play." What? Unproduced. I really prefer the old. I had changed the title back then, but at this point, you know, I'm not changing it back. And we and then it actually it happened, and that was in St. Louis. And then because someone saw that production at the Repertory Theater St. Louis, I had another production in Columbia, Missouri, this past year. So all of those rejections begat that production, which begat a second production in the same red state. So I have this one play that's a queer love story that is happening twice in a red state, and the thing is that the trajectory that happens is the trajectory that happened. It can't happen any other way, and it happened because I had and the play is in the shape that it's in today because nobody did it in 1999. So the rejections and the process of getting rejection can be the foundation of things. And I didn't work on that play consistently for 25 years. Like I said, I put it away for a decade. But they're all, it all is part of this process, and it is meant to be, like an encouraging story. I know, like, there's some stories like Stephen Sondheim didn't find love until he was 80, so there's hope for us all. It's like, oh my God, 80? But so there it is. It's just like, with luck, your play will be produced before its quarter century birthday, before it is old enough to rent a car. But the thing is that these things can happen. So and they happen in part because of the rejections.
It's funny you say that, Scott, because one of the things I've done lately is I've stopped writing timestamps in my shows because I don't know when they might get produced. So what's the point of putting a timestamp in something? Because, especially if it's like
absolutely.
What's that? Yeah, especially if it's like a futuristic dystopian type situation, and then you're like, wait a second, that's only happening in like 14 years. So
I need to know exactly what draft they have. So every single draft, when I write, I make all the changes in a document that is labeled working, and then when it's done, I'm not going to touch that anymore. I save it as a dated draft. That dated draft is never edited. Any edits are made in the working document, and so I have like files and files and files because I do need to know, and I'm sure like there are some like short plays where I could take the date off of them, and some people recommend doing that because people are going to look and like, you're sending me something you wrote in 1995, why am I going to read this now? So these things happen.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question for you. So when you are rejected, and this is really goes towards what the motivation is at post rejection, what do you do with the show?
The rejection is not part of the process. The rejection was the result of a submission that was made months and months ago. I'm you just keep submitting it. Because if it's something that I'm not going to self-produce, then the only option is to keep submitting it, or or submit something else. I have um, a ton of plays that I've never submitted anywhere, that are just waiting to be discovered on the NPX. But if it's something that's in development, if it's not being done and you haven't moved on to something, then you especially a full-length play. And I need to get better at doing this again. I used to do it quite voraciously. Is like, okay, well, then you arrange the table read. You hear it. You get your actor feedback. You get the feedback from the people you trust. You make the changes. Um, and um, and because and one of the things I was planning on saying later, but I may as well say it now. Sometimes the reason we get rejected is because the play needs work. It's that simple. It's not like you submitted this perfect thing, and oh, these Philistines did not recognize the genius of your voice. Sometimes the play needs work. All plays need work. I like to say sometimes it's like, are we ever, is a play, are we ever finished writing a play? No, but sometimes we're done. Sometimes, the our we have to stop parenting our children and let them live their own lives. And when they come back and ask for help, we help them. And that's what we do with our plays. And that's what I certainly did with Nonsense and Beauty. I was done, and then there was an opportunity, and I could be re-inspired. And with a lot of my full lengths now, I really should probably have had like more readings of them by now before I submitted them, or to places that are like, oh, we loved it, we just felt it wasn't right. Maybe if I had worked on it more, they would have felt differently. Who knows? But right now, in recent years, I think post-pandemic, I've been a little bit lazy about getting people into a room again, because I became so accustomed to doing things on Zoom. And and there's really no substitute for getting the live reactions of people in a room. So that's what you do. You keep working on your play, and if you get stuck on that play, I mean, your process is your process. If you need to muscle through it, you muscle through it. If you move on to something else and come back to it later, that's what you do. But you don't stop. You don't stop being a playwright because of the rejection. I mean, that's absurd.
I'm somebody who comes up with ideas all the time about just random things, and it might be the ADHD in me, but if you ever are in a situation where you're like, man, if I can't find a room, but Zoom works, I know a bunch of actors who would read your work anytime. So,
oh yeah, okay,
yeah. And I guarantee you that if I put something in our Slack, which is basically our community, that we would have a ton of bites on the Scott Sickles project. So just throwing that out there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yes. Meredith, I love your philosophy. Yes. That's the easiest way to avoid rejection.
Exactly.
Yes. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but you've got a perfect score.
Right?
I think Meredith Meredith is about to get into writing, so that's something she wants. She wants to do. So.
Somebody save her.
Yeah. Right.
I hope this doesn't talk her out of it. Don't leave us.
If it does, then, but yeah, I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into do you have other stories you want to talk? Obviously, we have other opportunities for us to get more
those are the rejection stories, and I think I think I'm good with that particular section of my prepared materials.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, then let's move into
I still have plenty left, so yeah.
Oh, good. Excellent.
I'm verbose. My 10-minute plays are all 12 minutes long, and that's probably why they're not getting accepted. So
listen, I mean, I think we turned Shipbuilding and Outpost into 12 or 15-minute shows.
Oh, Shipbuilding is long though. Shipbuilding is like 19 pages. Yeah. Outpost might have run a little bit longer, but I don't think it did. It may be by a minute or two, because it's a solid 10 minutes. So yeah.
Oh, it was tight. It was
tight.
Yeah, it was tight.
Yeah, it's so good.
Let's go into the neuropsychology of rejection.
Yeah. That's a fun topic. All right, everyone, let's get our drinks ready. Just to piggyback off of what Scott was talking about, though, in sharing when you hear someone accomplish sharing their experiences, it's always very validating to know that there's a through line here, that he is okay, he's made it through, and he has lived to tell us these stories. And in the chat, I dropped the message of what is in our control, our wheelhouse of power and control. Some of the things Scott mentioned are in our control. We know the type of play a theater might like. Broken Arts Entertainment, for instance, wants compelling works. What that means to them: deep emotional arcs. They want stories that make you feel something, that you're going to walk away and you're going to be talking about later, right? Like, for instance, this is an ad for Fragile Mind letter number 3. But so some shows, some theater houses tell you explicitly what they are looking for. And if you choose to submit something that goes against their grain, then sometimes they're interested and sometimes they won't be. And that's the kind of reality behind that. So we can control that. Implicit bias, we can't. That's the lived experience of someone that is reading our shows. If they had a grandparent that they lost to the certain thing that we're talking about, if they have a certain political perspective, if they have other biases, we don't know and we can't predict. Sometimes regionally, we can see where things slant. My shows with more mature characters, I find Florida is a great wheelhouse of production there for some of those. Like my show Always has over 56 productions, most of which happen in the lower states. However, my show Hands of Fate, which is about a gay couple, a very Tennessee Williams-esque kind of show, does not do well in the South. We can make some assumptions potentially of why. And some implicit bias. One time protagonist didn't invite his father to his wedding, and they said, well, that was just outright mean because a parent should always be at their son's wedding, even if he disapproves of who they're marrying. Obviously, that was very implicit. I could not control that person felt that way and decided to tell me about it at length in a feedback form. So yeah. So just to kind of consider that when you're setting yourself up for submissions. If you're going to do readings online, look into Liz Lerman critical response process. If you're going to get some folks together, she puts together some great questions that will give you great feedback as a writer that stays with why it works, what takes someone out of it, this sort of thing, so you don't get a lot of personal opinion. So that would be a great way to frame that if you're looking at having some readings of your work. Some of the things that I just wanted to touch on with the neuropsychology of rejection is, why does it hurt? It hurts because neurologically, the same center of the brain when you receive a rejection socially is the same center of the brain that gets activated when you receive a physical pain. So we can actually feel it in our body. We have an activation of the amygdala, which is the brain's threat system. So it triggers a cascade of psychological phenomenon. We get more cortisol, we get the adrenal system activation. So we can feel our stomach drop, muscle tension, all of the same physiological things that would happen if we were in danger. And we're not in danger, but our system often doesn't decipher very well, even nowadays, between the two types of threats. So I think it's important to understand that when you get that rejection, you are likely going to have a physiological reaction: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And we see it when we get those rejection letters. Sometimes folks will respond back and they will say, I reject your rejection. There was a thread going on for a while where people were posting onto, I reject you, sir, ma'am. I am not allowing you to reject me. And it's like, okay, but we're not going to do your show.
We had just on that vein real quick, we had a broken same person twice that when I sent that, and I try to be really nice and thoughtful and empathetic in my rejection letters to folks that are submitted to BAE. And really try to applaud the accomplishment to get to where they were in the process. But I
Yeah.
had one person as a finalist who got rejected said that they rejected my rejection and they need me to reconsider, and they will give me 24 hours to reconsider. And I pretty much lost my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
Regarding that, I remember this one person was very proud of a letter that's like, I got a rejection and I wrote this back, and they were so proud of it.
Yes.
And it was like, it wrapped up with, it's like, so when you finally come to your senses and are ready to accept my play, I will be ready to accept your apology. You know where to find me.
Yes.
I'm just like, oh my God. And the thing is that you have to remember that literary managers, they all know each other. I guarantee you that email got circulated to every theater in this country. And and the thing is that yeah, there are two ways you can respond to a rejection. You can say thank you, or you can say nothing.
Yeah.
You can vent about it, but to respond directly to to the people who are sending you the rejection, you say thank you for your consideration, thank you for the feedback, thank you, thank you, thank you, or you don't have to respond at all. They won't notice if you say nothing. and
Mm-hmm.
and you can you can bitch and moan about it all you want, but you also have to be very careful about how you do that on social media.
Yep.
There was one person who actually a very prominent playwright. The first time I ever saw their name on social media, they were like, well, I don't care about this opportunity and that opportunity anyway, because I'm going to be working at this theater and this theater, and I'm going to be working with this prestigious director. And it was
Yeah.
all I could do not to comment. Well, maybe you should contact the people who got those opportunities instead of you and let them know that they don't deserve them and that they
Mm.
should be yours. Because it's just like, I mean, the sportsmanship is a thing. Good manners are
Mm-hmm.
a thing. People say
Mm-hmm.
artists don't compete. That is all we do. That is all we ever do. We are always
Mm-hmm.
competing for the same slots. And I did want to. Is this a good time to talk about like the reasons are
Yes.
getting rejected? Because
Yeah.
I have a list. Um,
A top
um,
10 list.
yeah, yes. David Lipschutz's byline. No, that's not a reason. But David knows I love him. But one thing that we have to remember, because it's just like, and this is very true if you're one of those people who've been submitting to new dramatists for 40 years, it's just like, why didn't they take me? What are they looking for?
Mm-hmm.
What more can I do? There are only so many slots. There are
Yep.
only so many slots. Why didn't they take you? Why did they take your play? Because there were 600 submissions and only 4 slots for their festival. That is, and I know we all hate hearing that. And we don't really care. Just tell me no. But that's the reason. They might love your story. It might not be the right fit for their season. It might but not they might not be able to cast it. I have been since 20. I'm Korean and I'm mixed Korean, Korean and German, and I've been writing Korean characters since 2016 because of the presidential campaign. I had never dove into my heritage, and first thing I discovered is when you are when you finally embrace your heritage or a part of your identity and you're writing to that, there aren't a whole bunch of theaters with that niche who are thinking, oh my God, thank God you're finally here. Nobody gave a shit
Mm.
that you weren't there in the first place. And they have a list and they have a
Yep.
line of people and they all have 3 different plays themselves. You're at the back of the
Yep.
line. So that's why, and also like I'm writing about Asian characters. Asians are part. I think they're the hardest demographic to cast. It's just like Pan Asian. It's a very difficult demographic to cast. Um, Another thing, and it goes towards like how you respond to rejection. Is it fair for someone to not ever produce this person's play after they were like, I reject your rejection? Absolutely, it is because what you've just told that theater is that you're difficult to work with. You're not just, people don't
Yeah.
just want to produce good plays. They want to work with good playwrights. They want to work with good collaborators. And that's why and this is a whole other seminar, but why your artistic statement, if they ask for one, is so important because you can't just, if they're like, can we have an artistic statement there? And your response is just read my fucking play. Well, then
Mm-hmm.
that's a no because what they're trying to do is they have 20 plays that they absolutely love and they're trying to pick the person that they want to work with best or is most compatible with the people who are already going to be doing these projects. And if you're standoffish with them, then they're not going to want to work with you. And if you're being a dick about your rejection, they're not going to want to work with you,
Yeah.
nor should they. So that's the thing. And again, as Dana said, they could have the theater could have their explicit bias, their specific mission. They could have, again, like I was just saying, individual directors making the choices, or they're trying to match material up with other artists. And and also. Again, with implicit bias, the O'Neill is very explicit about this. They say, unfortunately, you might have written a wonderful play that would have been embraced by someone else, but the reader who got it, doesn't like speculative science fiction. They don't like your genre.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Mm-hmm.
think westerns belong on stage. And if you got and if you got the if it had gotten to the person who thinks, oh my God, there aren't enough westerns, you'd be in. You
Yeah.
can't do this. And another thing that you have to chalk things up to is that some people just have bad taste. Some people are just they like shitty plays. And there have been theaters in this city where I'm just like, you go to their season, and if there is one play in that season that you can even tolerate sitting through, that you don't leave it in intermission, and these are major theaters, it's just like a triumph. Oh my God, this theater
Mm-hmm.
finally did something that was not making my eyes bleed. Um, but there are a billion reasons to reject your play, and none of them have anything to do with you, and half of them don't have to do with your play. I was telling Dana before, I reject, or I didn't actually reject the play. Or did I? No, I don't think I did. I think I just read it and I hated it. When I saw it on its feed, I was like, oh, I don't think they changed a word, but that was the play that I did not see when I read it. Someone else
Mm-hmm.
understood it better than I did. So sometimes, when we're reading plays, we're the problem. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there's all that to consider.
Yeah. I think those are very important points about being collaborative, remembering that the theater community is small. It feels very broad, but it isn't. When you get down in it and when you are doing this type of work, as I was before a writer, I was an actor, and it's a very small community, and people remember names. So who do you want to be in this community? It may sting that you've been rejected, but if you're going to be reactive, then that's going to be remembered. And it's important lick the wounds, fix you need, because then you become the problem. It's not that you can't speak your truth. It's just watch if you're becoming reactive. And that's the piece that I think I see sometimes within our communities, which is fine. In our community, it's fine to vent to each other, but we have to be cautious the membership of those communities too. Many people wear many hats, and you don't want doors slammed because you're seen as difficult or not able to be a collaborator. And the Dramatists Guild continues to move the standard towards writers being in the room more and more and being a part of the collaboration team. And so knowing your role within that team, because it's your work, but others have to interpret it and produce it. So that if you're not going to be collaborative in this initial process, what tells them that you're going to be able to have a seat at that table then and be a good, member of that artistic community? You have to really be in that artistic community as well. And I think that goes to my point of why artists often feel rejection more deeply, I think, is because it's an amplification of our identity and our emotional investment. So a play is rarely just a product. It contains personal experiences, emotional truth, years of reflection, imagination, parts of the writer's inner life or world. Mm-hmm. So we're drawing from our own observations, relationships, memories. And so when it doesn't get across to someone else, we can feel a personal sense of rejection there, that we didn't make it across that finish line. So we have to kind of watch that. And instead of asking, is my voice not valuable? Looking at some of the things that Scott said that could be the reasons why it didn't necessarily manifest with a win in that column, Yeah. Because our brain is going to interpret this as a rejection of social standing within a group. especially I was sharing, you know, the experience of seeing others accepted into this to this publication. It forged a community, and if you're not accepted within that, I like to look at Maslow's hierarchy of need. For those of us that maybe went through Psych 101, we might be familiar with that pyramid. The very basic is food, clothing, and shelter. The one right above that on the pyramid is belonging. That's how crucial it is for us as human beings, for our own ability to function. It's right there at second tier. And this feels like
I think we're losing Dana.
Feel a sense of survival has kicked in because we were accepted that. So it's important to step back and look.
Oh no!
I had a feeling that was going to happen. All right,
this is a very body moment.
I know it's such an important.
But I'll just jump in because further to what Dana was saying, we did want to talk about like how to react when other people are doing better than you, because there's always at least one person, or in most of our cases, thousands and thousands of people who are doing better than we are. And I did want to talk about jealousy and covetousness, and the difference being, jealousy is, oh, I wish I got that production, or I wish I made it into that festival, and covetousness is, that should have been me in that festival and not you took my slot. And we have to be very careful about like which toxic reaction we're having. And the thing is that toxic, like you're going to be jealous. Jealousy, jealousy is a very natural reaction, and it's what we do with it that is important. There's a Gore Vidal quote that I absolutely love, and that is, every time a friend succeeds, a little something in me dies. And it's a very true thing. It's just like, yay, you got another production. Great. And it's just, and the thing is that and some people, like we were saying, alluding to before, it's like, yeah, some people just hit at the right moment, or they have a play that's being done everywhere, or it's that kind of like they really know how to write a 10-minute play that festivals just love, and or it's just like, oh, this person, it's like, and we can get angry at it because it's just like, this play again, or that play is really a sketch, it's not a play, and we have all kinds of reactions to why things are being done that are by other people and not us. And sometimes I'm talking about jealousy and covetousness, and sometimes
Yes.
you'll see someone posting about how it's like, oh yep, got another 3 productions this week, 2 domestic, 1 international, just like every other week of the year. Oh my god, this is the first weekend in 4 years where I didn't have anything going on except in Antarctica. And it's just like, you get this, and the thing is that as a person who is, you can't, you have a knee-jerk reaction, and then and I'm actually going to talk to, and Dana can also jump in on rejection sensitive dysphoria for the ADHD community, because that's a big thing. I'll get to that in a second. But the thing is that a really great thing to do is that when someone's successes are like are making you feel bad about yourself, or making you feel bad in that moment, you hit the love button, you hit the wow button, and then you snooze them for 30 days. You want to follow them. You don't have to actually put if you don't want to hear about how great the development process is and the thing that rejected you.
Yes.
Yeah, just
That's
don't.
fine.
Yeah. That is self-care. And the thing is, like, if you want to check in and be like, yay, go you, and then
take a break.
Yeah. And really, it's just and again,
yes, I agree. Some people were
I feel like there was something really good going on there. We had good momentum.
Am I still glitchy?
Yeah.
Turn off my camera. Unglitched. Does it work better if my camera's on my phone?
Apparently.
Am I unglitched now?
You're unglitched.
Maybe I'll leave my Yeah, maybe I'll leave my camera off. I don't know. I don't know if that's a Zoom fallacy. If you turn off your camera, the
Agreed. Yeah.
bandwidth works better. Who knows? But no, I agree, Scott. Why subject yourself to that? If you need a break, then take a break. As you talked about with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, it's a real thing. It is more apparent in those that have neurodiversity, but it is something that we can all kind of pass through with that, and that is the best we can do too is address our old emotional wound network, if you will. Sometimes this rejection can trigger other rejections or traumas that we've had in our life. And it's okay to examine those too. Like, what might this be pushing on? Have we been excluded? If sense of exclusion before in a sense of community, or we're dealing with a loss or these sorts of things. Sometimes this rejection can amplify other things, so take care of yourself, do other things for your creativity besides the moment of writing. You're not just a creative at the moment of writing. You are a creative because it's a part of your DNA, so nurture it. Go to a museum, see a play, go to a movie, get out in nature, nurture your creative self, and it's going to pay back in dividends. But yes, we have to take care of our old emotional wounds, try to do some healing there. And we can regulate our nervous system. So, and Joe will send this out so our community here can have it as well. But I put together a little exercise that you can do on your own that will help you kind of regulate your nervous system so that rejection sensitivity will be lessened, because it comes from a survival network in our brain. So it's not you, it's your brain.
Yeah.
It's the neural networks of distress that get activated, your cortisol levels, adrenal system. It's a lot. And when people, to Scott's point, why those with ADHD and other neurodiversities get more of this is generally because, on average, they are told as a child they have more than, like, I think it was, I have to find the statistic, but they grow up with thousands of more negative messages than their neurotypical peers. So over time, the brain learns to anticipate rejection, and that makes our emotional responses to perceived criticism so much stronger.
Yeah.
So if you've grown up with trauma, abuse, neurodiversity, you've been subjected to criticisms much more than the, on average, not neurodiverse person. So it's something to take care of in ourselves, to understand we need to take care of self and have good self-care practices.
And Joe put in the definition of rejection sensitive dysphoria in the chat, and it is an intense emotional and physical reaction to real or perceived rejection, criticism, or failure, often overwhelming and difficult to control. And the thing about the crucial word there is not sensitive. The crucial word is dysphoria. Because rejection sensitivity sounds like, I don't like rejection. Who does? Why are you complaining? Dysphoria is the opposite of euphoria. So euphoria is an overwhelming and infinite sense of pleasure. Dysphoria is the opposite of that, and that's what people with RSD go through. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When we have perceived rejections, and what is a perceived rejection? I will give you one of my favorite examples. I cannot read Dramatist magazine from the Dramatist Guild because in that magazine there is a list of every production that is going on in every professional theater in the country. Why can I not read this? Because whether I have submitted my play to them or not, I haven't. I have not submitted anything to these people. They have not actually rejected anything of mine. But every time I see like a season announcement or a season schedule in there, every little last one of every play that they did pick, whenever I see that, my body instantly reacts, my brain instantly reacts as that is an individual and personal rejection of each and every individual one of my plays. So if I have, for example, 10 full-length plays, every listing is 10 deeply personal rejections. And that's for every single one of their shows at every single one of these theaters. And it's all, and the moment I look it up, every last one of those rejections that are completely imaginary but incredibly painful is hitting me all at once. To actually open those pages causes me physical pain. And that's and the thing is that Not a single one of them has read my work in order to reject it, but it's the perception of rejection. It's that none of these people are doing your work, and because it's not you, you have been rejected. The brain is a son of a bitch, and it really is
Mm-hmm.
just and it is constantly attacking. And the thing is, like talking about ADHD, I was talking about the brain and the consciousness, and the consciousness can rationally know that this is not actually a problem, and the brain is saying yes it is, yes it is, yes it is, yes it is, at a billion times a second, and that is what is going through your body. And and we're talking about the brain and the amygdala and the threat center. The amygdala immediately, it's like, oh, this is a threat, it goes to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Normally happens, Danny, you can back me up or correct me, is that it sends a message to the cerebral cortex that says, I'm at 11, is this appropriate? And the frontal cortex will be like, no, it's a 2, a 3 at
Mm-hmm.
best. In the ADHD brain in particular, we send that message to the frontal cortex, and the frontal cortex responds, "We are out of the office until further notice."
Yep. We're busy
And
right now.
then you're left with an 11. And that's why,
Yep.
why you'll see, like, it's just it's like, where the fuck did I put that paperclip? I just put it right there, and I can't even listen. Where the fuck is it? And then the house is on fire. If the house is on fire, could you just put it out, please? Thank you. And it's just like
Mm-hmm.
we have inverted reactions to crises. So if we lose a paperclip, the world ends. The house is
Mm-hmm.
on fire, you put it out. Why are you wasting my time? And it's a weird thing to have to deal with on a daily basis, especially with like rejection and in rehearsals. It's a really interesting thing. Like, you have to keep your temper in check during rehearsals, because you're going to get angry at the wrong thing, and you're not going to have the right energy for the right thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, but that's yeah, we're nuts.
I'm
Um
pretty sure I pre-reject myself on a lot of different things, not just playwriting.
Yeah.
oh, don't yeah, absolutely. Oh, I could go on, but yeah,
That's so good, though. Thank you for. I mean, both. I mean, I don't know. Like, I relate infinitely with everything that was just said. Um.
well, what I want to add this just because it's a fun thing. I was on playwright binge, and someone had commented. This person actually made this comment. She's like, "What's going on? I normally get at least 45 acceptances a year, and this year I only got 30. There's some disturbance in the theater force." And it's just like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
That's for, yeah. It's just like, I consider a year with like 5 to 7 productions a banner year. I mean,
Mhm.
Right.
people think I'm produced a lot more than I am, but it's just like, yeah, no. If I get, like, yeah, and I do want to talk about the importance of taking the win, because like we
Mm-hmm.
pre-reject ourselves, but we also do a thing where it's just like it's like, oh, congratulations. Well, it was just a 10-minute play festival. Oh, it's a 1-minute play. That's it. In this magazine, they produce something by everyone they submit. Just, take the win, because and
Yeah.
is this a good time to talk about standards of success that we hold for ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, good, because um uh uh, what defines success is actually something that for each of us is something how part of the way we process rejection, because we think of like what we want to be as successful playwrights. And a friend of mine considers himself very successful, and he's gotten several productions, several publications by really great publishing companies. But I asked him, we were talking about success, and he says, I feel I'm very successful because I am writing the plays that I always wanted to be in, that no one would ever cast me in, and now I am doing them. And everything else, the other productions, yeah, he does want to write plays that reach people in ways that they are not used to be, reach at. He's a very avant-garde writer. Every time I see one of his plays, it is nothing I would ever write, or in a way that I would never write it. And I feel that I have learned so much about my craft. Usually there's like one moment in each of his plays that just blows my mind. And I'm a better writer for having seen this person's work. But he's achieved his level of success because his level of success is very specific in that way. My bare minimum of success is reflective on what I just said. It is, are my full-length plays being regularly produced in professional union theaters around the country at all times? They are not. Therefore, based on the standards of success I have for myself, I am an abject failure. Everything else is not good enough. This is part of the reason is because, as I mentioned, I'm of German and Asian extraction. So if I am not the only playwright being produced at all theaters at all times from now in perpetuity, and if any other playwright has been performed at any theater at any point in time in the past, including before I was born, then I have also failed. So really, this particular standard of rejection is so much smaller than my cultural standard of rejection. It's fine. I can live with it. Because I also know that it's not a realistic thing and that I'm not doing enough to make it happen. But that's the thing, I'm using myself as a do what I say, not what I do example, because figure out what you really want and what and if your standard of success is I'm going to get one of my 10-minute plays produced somewhere this year that's by a company that I don't run, that is great. Adjust the scope of what success means to you, because otherwise, you're not going to feel great about yourself and you might give up. And you shouldn't. Because the world needs you to keep plugging away at your voice. And the other thing about success, how to process success, is that a lot of this success can come from your previous failures. If you get rejections that actually have suggestions in them or notes or feedback, it's not great to just dismiss it out of hand. You can read it and then say, okay, this is not helpful, but take it to heart. Maybe consider where it came from. Is their note actually not the thing that you need to fix? Is that reflective of the other thing that you need to fix that they didn't mention or notice? It's just like feedback in a room. And I think that those are important things. You can really mess yourself up by not taking your wins and really just looking at any success as a failure because it's not big enough. And so
Right.
that's, yeah. And I've had to learn to be like, yeah, this is, this 10-minute play matters. I had a really happy success because I kept submitting to the No Theater in Binghamton. They have a competition every year where they put up 3 works of art and they take plays inspired by those works of art, and each work of art gets 2 plays. So you don't have a 1 in 6 chance of getting in there. You have a 1 in 2 chance. It's whatever it's worth. It's like you're going to be one of 2 plays that are selected, not one of 6 plays that are selected. And I actually got in this year after 7 years or 7 straight rejections. And what I learned is when I saw the other plays is when they're looking at the plays they're going to do, they really need to see the connection between your play and the prompt. Sometimes I'll see the prompt and I'll do like a really abstract take on it. If they can't see that connection, they're probably not going to go with it. But that's the thing. That's an example of learning from the rejection, and not just from the rejection, but what gets accepted instead of you, and that's or along with you. If you got lucky, it's like, oh, now I know how to approach it
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, I love that. And I love shaping successes into things that aren't also external, because success for a playwright is often misunderstood because the theater world tends to define it in very visible ways. Productions, awards, premieres, reviews, Broadway runs, certain prestigious invites. Those things are meaningful, but they're not always the whole picture either. So we can have some external markers, and everybody here at various levels probably has something that they'd perhaps like to achieve. But I also like to frame it as a creative. Your success is also how you nurture the craft. So, did you finish a full length play or the 10-minute or the 1 minute? Did you achieve that? Did you read something that inspired your work? Like I read Into the Woods by John York, and I was like, oh, I love this. A friend recommended it. And I wasn't writing. I'm on a little hiatus in between a few things. And so I thought that would be a nice way to supplement that. And so I felt good about that. I got that dopamine hit from completing that task. And if you aren't writing right now, go read. Read everything you can. Go to NPX, tune into Broken Arts and listen to all the shows. Listen to Theatrical Shenanigans, all those podcasts out there. Take in some work. Reach out to other playwrights and build your own community, your own little collective. That will give you wins. I have a few separate little collectives that I'm a part of. And in those groups, we support each other, not only what we're writing or professionally, but also personally. So try to develop a little niche, if you will. And that's a great way to also celebrate wins and have each other's backs and attend workshops together, meet up for lunch together. Just having people that get it can
Yeah.
also give us that win too, you
Mhm.
know? So
Mhm.
and that helps with rejection because I like to host in April the annual O'Neill rejections for those that participate. Hopefully, I won't be participating this year, but I have participated
I'll
in
be
every
there.
other year. Okay, so don't give me shit. Let me have one win. No, but you know, to host these little get-togethers. Somebody, I wish I would have jotted down, but somebody in the Playwright Connection posted that they made themselves like a flyer and they go and bring it to get like a free coffee at their favorite place when they get rejected as a funny like moment of, hey, I'm celebrating my loss here. So sometimes as creatives, that's the one beautiful gift we have, is to think outside the box. So think outside the box
Nice.
with your successes.
And yeah, and don't shit on other people's successes. I mean, there's it's just like, oh, I got in here. Oh, they're terrible.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
don't do that. I mean, if you have a legitimate warning, contact them privately and say, just be careful when you work with these people, that they might, this was my experience, but you don't need to be like, oh, they don't do very good work, or just like the passive aggressive thing. Because I was actually joking about this. It's like, oh, I'm with a friend of mine. I'm so glad your play got published. I guess it's good that you didn't take any of my notes, huh? But it's just, you can just you could you be be supportive of other, treat people, it's the golden rule, just treat people the way you want to be treated. Try to like calibrate yourself to react in a way that you would want other people to react to your successes when they come, because we really are all in this together,
Mhm.
uh, even though sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but yeah.
True. We are all in this together, and we've spent a lot of time today talking about rejection, how to handle rejection and things like that. And I think now is a good time to transition into inspiration and structure before we get back to rejection again. um just kidding about
I'm
that.
too depressed.
You're too depressed. So we're gonna take a second. We're gonna just kind of go over just some things. First of all, before I even get into this, I want you to know that what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about inspiration to structure, and we're going to build into kind of different ways, different things that I use to build shows, different ways that are prescribed, different ways that are taught. But I will tell you this: just right. Like that's the start, right? Just right. I'll give you an example. We have a playwright here that's in our session today who wrote their first show last year. It's called One Red Shoe. Didn't have a lot of structure to it. The structure was kind of a little messy. Didn't wasn't really subscribed to the U.S. standard playwright or the or any other methodology, and it was a great story. It was a great story. We produced it. And the reason why we produce it is because we produce great stories here at Broken Arts Entertainment. That's our goal. It doesn't matter how it gets to us. If it's a great story, we want to produce it. And I'm talking about Bernie Horton, who was here, and that was his first show. And it was a tremendous show. It was fun to direct. It was great to see it come to fruition. And who doesn't love killer beavers, right? Beavers that gnaw off the limbs of children. Um, yes, right, right. Go listen to it. Go listen to it if you haven't listened to it. But what I want to talk about first is inspiration. So, Bert, before I give you anything that's like, oh, this is what you should be inspired by, give me some things that just real quick, you put them in the chat or you can say it out loud. I don't care what it is that has inspired you thematically or inspired you to then write something about it or feel something and then write something about it. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you get to the motivational part where you take action. But what are some things that have inspired you? An example I have is I was in Kittery, Maine. I was eating pizza at this place, and across the street, they were selling Adirondack chairs, and there was a woman sitting in the chair, and she sat there the entire time we were eating pizza outside, and she just sat there. And it was a store, but she just sat in this chair. And so I wrote a play that inspired me to write a play called Adirondack Chairs, about a woman who was missing her husband, who had passed away. And she just sat, the chairs reminded her, and she got kind of stuck to those chairs. So thank you, Randy. Yeah. So what are things that have inspired you?
Um, I ran across a random article. Maybe someone sent it to me because the pictures were great, but it was a picture of a destination wedding in Iceland, and the photography was absolutely stunning. The scenery, the clothes, and everything, and it's in Glacier Lake, Iceland. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if someone dropped the rings into the lake?
Oh,
And so I wrote a play called it was supposed to be like a 1 minute play, and when I read it, it is 60 seconds. When actors read it, it's 3 minutes. But it's so it's 3 minutes long. But the thing is that I wrote this play, and it was fun, and I called it Down to the Depths, taking the title from the Cole Porter song, and I showed it to Steve Martin, who is not that Steve Martin, but the Steve
the
Martin
other
in
one.
Playwrights Thriving. Yes, good Steve Martin. But and he said, you have to write a series of these and just call it Destination colon Wedding. And and so that led to literally 13 other plays in this series that we did what was called an elevated stage reading of in Chicago this past year. And that was to me like that is my favorite success, because was it a big production? It wasn't even a production. It was a staged reading
Mhm.
in a church, script in hand, with 10 actors who were great. And what was funny is that there were only 13 plays when we started this process, and one of the actors had only 2 lines. And I was like, I cannot let this wonderful actor sit in this room with all this and not give this person something more to do.
Yeah.
So I was able to, because this person had no lines and I had a visual of this person, I knew what they sounded like from those 2 lines. I was able to write a primarily monologue driven play in this particular series so that they would have more to do, and it fit the overall arc very nicely. But that was one of the most joyous theatrical experiences of my life. And it was because I saw a random article about, a couple in avant-garde clothes in this beautiful setting in Iceland where I have never been. So,
It's amazing, Scott. And actually, the actor story that you told, I do that all the time with A Fragile Mind. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's been seen 250,000 times, or listened to it 250,000 times, and I still find that I get the most pleasure out of an actor just killing it, and I haven't built enough big enough character for them, and so I'm like, yeah, I gotta add more now. We're gonna
You want
make
to
it
make it worthy of your muse, and it's really cool. Yeah.
exactly. That's amazing. That's amazing. Dana, what about you? Something that's inspired you?
Um, I, well, I don't know. It inspired me. I kind of put there that I was going for a walk. I took my dog out in the rain and I saw two teenage girls climbing the water tower. This huge water tower in town is so dangerous. Every part of my mom fiber wanted to rip these girls down and scold them. But as they climbed higher and higher and laughed, and I just felt like they needed it. And I was witnessing something. And when they got to the top, the one girl just put out her arms and the rain just fell on her. And I don't know, I felt like I was in someone else's moment. And
Hmm.
it inspired me to think why someone at that age might want to escape and feel something bigger than them. And it tied me back to my own experiences as an adolescent. And I didn't know what I was going to write, but I knew that that was going to be in it. That moment was going to be there. And that was the inspiration for Refracted Light. And Refracted Light has been a grace to write. And I think some of our greatest pieces kind of almost write themselves, and we feel like we're a proxy. And that's how I felt in that story. I felt like I was a proxy to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, when you think about it, like literally inspiration could come from anywhere and can hit you at any time. It can be an image, it could be a line of dialogue that you've heard. Could be a documentary about 11-year-olds, and you're like, I'm going to write a book now.
Mhm.
Could be a feeling or emotion. It could be a what if scenario too. But it's our connection to whatever that is that starts that inspiration.
Yeah, I had it was during lockdown, and it's like I'm I'm plagued by random thoughts anyway. And one random thought that occurred to me as like flouncing around my room here was it must be odd to hear the Glass Menagerie in French. And I was like, oh my God. I just immediately sat down and wrote a play that was this that was spurred on by that random thought, and it was just fun. I mean,
Yeah.
and like I think we could get a lot of our inspiration from like politics, the news, anything that's bothering us. I used to always refer to myself as a fear-based playwright. One advice I like to give playwrights is never underestimate the stakes of human loneliness.
Mm.
Lonely people, when we're at our loneliest, we make the worst decisions and they have the biggest consequences. So
Mm.
loneliness is a huge stake, but really, like, what are you afraid of in your life? What are you afraid of in the world? What bugs you? What did you not get over? That a character in something you wrote can get over or not get over, and your character not getting over that is helping you get over it. What's just funny? Just the inspiration is a really great thing. I have actually written a lot in my earlier years as a playwright about the nature of inspiration and sort of like tracking like what inspired this person to write about this thing and how does it connect into their larger world. A great movie about that is actually The Hours, because you see how Mrs. Dalloway affects its author, someone who is just reading it, and someone who had read it decades ago, and that's the Mrs. Dalloway is the through line of that
Mhm.
film, and it's a great treatise on inspiration.
Yeah, that's amazing. Also, so in what when once you've received the inspiration, once that inspiration comes, what do you do next? And I think that's where a lot of playwrights kind of, that's that hesitation. But so you have two different, choices that you make. Essentially, it's I go now and answer questions, and this is where hopefully we can give you guys some tools to help to go forward and take action on your inspiration. So the things to ask yourself is once you see the inspiration, whatever it is, it's what happens next. Why does it matter? And how does it escalate? Essentially. So you go from idea to intention and then into action. A couple of things this guy was kind of alluding to, like who is this happening to and what disrupts the normal world? Like where are the disruptions? And then how do you address those disruptions? And you build a cause and effect chain where every moment leads to the next. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not prescriptive. There are plenty of stories out there that are non-linear in that direction, but you've got to have a through line that still fits, or there has to be connectivity to what is being produced or written.
Yeah. And I'd like to encourage people. Um, Linear does not mean chronological.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you're writing something with flashbacks or jumping around in time, the time may go back and forth. The story should continue to move forward. Like flashbacks in general should never exist just for you to stop and give backstory to the audience.
Mm.
It's just like it's something that someone on stage is affected by or is thought of in the front or back of their minds that once the audience sees it affects their next decision, whether they make it or not. So everything is really cause and effect, and I think that like I think that looking at like basic standard play structure, whichever one you use, like for the well-made play, because I always say it's called a well-made play for a reason, but that doesn't mean they're always good. And if you have status quo, inciting incident, rising action, crisis,
Mhm.
climax, denouement, a new status quo. If you're writing a full length, all of those things can be good guideposts for you. I'm an avid outliner. I will outline a 1 minute play. Before I
Mm.
write it down, I will know what I am doing. And that's why I don't have a lot of sympathy for it's like, oh my God, I'm 200 pages into my play and I don't know how it's, what's in your outline? Oh, I don't have an outline. Well,
Mm.
but the thing is that, and that is prescriptive, and yeah, you don't have to take it. I'm not going to apologize. But the thing is that it's great to when if you don't use an outline, then your seat of the pants draft is actually your outline. So we all on one
Yes.
level outline in different ways. We figure out the story and we go from there. And I think what's really great is that I think often if you're trying to too hard to figure out like, oh, I have this inspiration, this light bulb, what is it? What is it really about? Could it be about this? Could it be about that? You might be spinning your wheels, and that might be an indication to stop because just and this is everyone. You either muscle through or you do what I do, and you do something else, and you're just like la 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 la. Oh my God! And then I have to get back to the
Hmm.
computer. And so you can do whatever approach works best for you works best for you. But just like when it comes down to the craft of actually writing it, like the structure is your friend. The thing that people tell you, oh, that's old fashioned, or that's these are rules. There shouldn't be any rules. It's art. Yeah, the rules are there. Know them so you know
Yeah.
how to break them. So you know how
Yeah.
to use them to your advantage. So you know that when you twist something around and you turn the rule on its head, that you're doing it with some sort of skill or some sort of resonance.
Hmm.
Because you can and also remember that your first draft is called a vomit draft for a reason.
Yep.
You
I love
just
that.
scoop it out.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Sift
And if
through
you're
the
not
stuff and then
outlining,
left to
yeah.
go.
Totally. And if you're not outlining, then you're absolutely right. It's a discovery draft, and
Yeah.
then you can go from there. But ideas can be abundant, but a play, it does not make. Sometimes we'll read something and we can see it when we're doing festival and we're doing readings.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, they had a great idea. And that's all this play was an idea, and it kind of died on the vine. So
Mhm.
what Joe's saying about structure and character and conflict, and what Scott's talking about in terms of mapping out what there is, plays do follow a format. Whether you want to go against the
Yeah.
grain or not, do understand what that is. And we're going to give you a list of resources that you can kind of look through and decide what works best for you. But some that I like to use: The Art of Dramatic Writing. I go back and look at premise. I use backwards and forwards. I think David Ball wrote that, and that's action and causality. We should have movement forward. We love exposition because we're trying to understand the characters. And I think that's what you run into if you don't have an outline, is that you're discovering as you're writing. And so there's a lot more exposition that likely doesn't have to be there, but you don't know your characters yet and you don't know where they're going yet. So you're letting them talk a lot, which is fine, but understand then you're going to get a draft that it's going to require some rewriting, some editing, and killing those darlings, because otherwise you're giving us a lot
Yeah.
and it might not be cohesive to the direction that you're going.
Yeah, I want to recommend the Dramatist Toolkit by Jeffrey Sweet.
Yes.
I carried that around in the '90s like Linus's security blanket. It was the only thing
It's
making me
great.
sane because kept seeing all these plays done at places like Lincoln Center. Where I'm just like, are these just two people talking about the past and nothing's happening? Am I doing this wrong? Am I not right? Am I right? Am I not writing badly enough? To get produced at Lincoln Center? What is going on? And I would go to the Dramatist Toolkit, and I was reading it at the time, and it was just like, okay, it's not me. Okay, it's not me. And but the thing is that I would say that there are basically two kinds of playwrights. There are the playwrights who want to write the play that they want to write. It's their vision, it's their story. They're not going to change a word, and they're the only person that they have to please. And then there are the playwrights who want to write the best play they possibly can, and they will take things in. And it's not a matter of pandering, but it's like they will take things and they will make sure that their play is a communicative thing, that it is reaching people. And I don't have time for the first kind of playwright. Nobody does.
Right.
That is a play that
Mhm.
if you only care about what you think about your play, I don't know how you're writing it with one hand down your pants, but good for you, and you're the only person who should ever see it. You get to be. This is a communicative meeting. You are storytellers. You are telling story. And also plays. Plays are strictly speaking they're dramatic writing. They are about conflict and resolution. And it just when you have a play that's like two people on two different sides of a political argument and all they're doing is discussing it, then you don't have a play. You have an essay. It's
Mhm.
just disguised as a play. You have a grant proposal that is disguised as a play. If you're just like, oh well, this is what's interesting about this subject. Well, this too is also interesting. George Bernard Shaw was the master of having political arguments between two characters, and the personal stakes of that argument are what's paramount. That's what the play is about. It is about the father and the daughter and Major Barbara. It's not,
Hmm.
even though it's thematically about arms dealing or whatever, it's just, the discussions are about of arms and peace and war are about, they lead to the reconciliation or not of these two characters. So what is personal about your play? And the thing is, just like if you were writing towards a theme, and I write towards them all the time, what does this particular thing happening in the world, or this particular crisis that inspired you, have to do with these particular people? How are they taking it? Are they for it? Are they against it? And what does it
Hmm.
mean to them? What is at stake for them if this law passes? You know, and I think everything about playwriting in that sense, no matter how broad or universal your themes are, playwriting is about the how this broad thing affects the intimate lives of the people that you've created, and and because you're the god of their universe, it is your duty to make them miserable. So onward.
It's actually one of the best compliments you can get is when somebody says that your protagonists have been put through the ringer, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites anyway. I love when people say that to me. There are a lot of different structures. Just to kind of go, continue down this path. There's a lot of different structures that you can go with. You can look at. I think it's important to have the elements that Scott was just talking about. I think it's important to discuss, the three C's. I think that's an important piece, which is character, conflict, and change. Character basically is how your audience should connect to a character. I think also there are a couple of things to stay away from. Well, you got the three C's, you got the five W's, you've got the Aristotelian. Um, sorry,
Unity.
I was on a roll. Yeah, thank you. So you've got a lot of different structures out there, but I do think that's got hit on something that I didn't put in my outline that I live by, which is one, outline, but two, know how your show's going to end. Because it's a goal. And whether it ends that way or not, that's up to you, but at least know how your show's going to end.
Yeah, you kind of need to figure out what your characters want, because it's all about them
Yeah.
Yes.
getting what they want.
Right.
I was just working on this project and with other writers, in the first draft of one of the plays, it's just like the characters, the person who wrote the first act of this crazy project that I'm involved in started with three playwrights, and we were commissioned to each of us write one third of one act of a full length play of two different full length plays.
That sounds
And
fun.
we weren't making it up. We weren't passing it back and forth. We had an overall story for each of these that we came up with ourselves. I do not recommend doing this. Do not listen to them. Don't try it when you leave the house. It's going well, but it has no right to go this well. But the point is that like the first draft of this one play that we got, the writers, the way he works, was it takes him about 4 or 5 full drafts before he gets like into what the character and even discovers what the characters want, despite us having an outline and saying what the characters wanted. And we had like a whole lot of like the most beautiful language, stage directions, a set description that went on for 2.5 pages, where you still had no idea what it looked like. The converse, I hesitate to call it actions, but conversations would stop so that the lights would go to a spotlight and a character would come out and deliver their entire backstory. And then once they were done, 4 minutes later, the lights would go out and leave the stage, and this conversation that had no action would continue. And yeah, it's the first draft. It's a vomit draft. It really does not have to be well structured. But we're also trying to build on this, and we had nowhere to build from, or any place to go. So when I actually had to take a pass on this particular draft and do my rewrite of it, I had to tell people, I'm like, okay, anything where two characters were discussing the past without a reason to discuss the past is gone.
Hmm.
Anytime that they were discussing the backstory, anytime that there was a monologue where someone wasn't trying to get something from someone else or to get someone to do something else, it's gone. And I cut swaths. And this is just some basic playwriting advice that I love to give. There are I hope I remember them all off the top of my head. There are four things your character should never talk about unless they are really are pressurized to talk about them and that are getting or they're using it to get something that they want, and that's the past. So anytime I remember when we're going to fall asleep. Anytime a character talks about the past, their feelings, their personal relationships, or social issues, your play will stop dead if they are not talking about these things for a very good reason. They either have to be forced to talk about them or they're talking about them to get something else from their characters. Otherwise, it's just we're killing time. And if they're talking about them to discuss to cover up like what their real agendas or to not if I'm talking about the past or our relationship because I want to avoid talking about something else, yes,
Mhm.
that is them using these things for a purpose. So be careful whenever you write these things and really listen to a play whenever anyone is talking about these things. Why are they talking about them? Because if you're engaged, there's a reason. Um, and I think that that's just that will and also that's it's also a second draft or a post first draft problem. You know, that's a thing that you look at later because you just need to get all the information out in your very first draft.
And also the things that you're talking about, Scott, are things that have to be earned in the show. Like that has to
Exactly.
be earned. It can't
Have
be
to burn, they have
just
to be pressurized. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And just in a similar vein, I feel the same way about monologues. Like
Mhm.
monologues
Exactly. Yeah.
have to be earned. If a show starts with a monologue, that monologue better kick ass and be full of action. Otherwise, I don't know enough yet about the character to really get into it and
Yeah,
and then build it that way. Because a lot
that's a great
oftentimes,
point. Yeah.
yeah, oftentimes beginning, when you begin a show with a monologue, it's just exposition and it's unnecessary. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that and physical action too. Physical action within a show has to be earned. Like that's an
Yeah.
earned thing. It can't just be a kiss out of nowhere. Um, things like that.
And I'll also
Yeah.
mention my crash course on obstacles. There are basically when because your characters need to face obstacles. And let's see if I can remember the four kinds of obstacles. They are uh, physical objects, walls, oceans, streets, cars. Time is a physical object. So if you're running out of time, that is a physical thing. But physical objects, other people, whether they're getting in your way intentionally or not, if they're cross purposes or if they just won't shut up, that's another other people. Internal emotions, your fear, your hesitation, your desire, that your internal emotions are huge obstacles. And the other thing is my favorite supernatural forces, ghosts, goblins, monsters. Sometimes they're not physical, ectoplasm. But yeah, but those are basically the four major obstacles, and pretty much everything falls into those categories. But yeah, that's my crash course syllabus and like what your characters should be talking about and what's getting in their way, and I actually have an exercise that I like where you and you can do this on your own time. Have a protagonist, give them the simplest of tasks. It could be crossing the street, it could be getting a cookie out of a cookie jar, and have them do that thing while confronting all four of those obstacles. And you can come up. I did high school classroom once, and oh my God, it was like the best day. It's certainly the best day I ever had in high school, which was a low bar to clear. But it was just, it was great. They came up with really great things. And I had a student once who, his character needed to buy a lottery ticket, and his the other person was his wife. The supernatural force was the ghost of his rabbi. The what oh I think yeah, his obstacle was he was afraid that he would get in even more trouble or something like that, and the physical obstacle was the store was closed, he couldn't buy the ticket, and he did this all in one page, and it was just like ridiculously fun. So I highly recommend that just as a fun exercise. And the fun exercise you do could actually be like the play that gets you into your next festival. So
Mm-hmm.
you never
True.
know. You never know what's going to do it.
You never know. Absolutely. And since we've covered two of the C's so far, we might as well hit that last C, which is change. There has to be a transformation,
Yeah.
or a fail to transform. Also, that can
Yeah.
also be
Yeah. I actually, my favorite example of that is Arthur Miller's The Ride Down Mount Morgan, because the main character, whose name is very subtly Lyman, but it's about a man who gets into a car accident and he's a bigamist, and the hospital accidentally calls both of his wives and they both show up. One of them thought he had divorced the first one, and the first one didn't know about the second one. But what's interesting is that the character of Lyman, the bigamist, staunchly does not change. Because he refuses to change, everyone else around him changes. He is left
Mhm.
with no one and nothing by the end of that play, and it is a glorious thing. It's also it gets Arthur Miller reminds us that he's actually an experimental player because it's a weird fucking play at times. But yeah, and that's the thing about structure. Don't be afraid to get weird. You don't have to
Mhm.
write it normal, but but
Yeah.
yeah, but
Maybe
yeah.
a counter to the lack of change there could be maybe a Doll's House, where Nora goes from obedient kind
Mhm.
to her husband to the door that is slammed around the world, the door slammed her
Yeah.
around the world, where there's such a transformation of who this person is. It doesn't necessarily have to be that necessarily externalized, as long as there has to be a reason why we started this and why we're ending this. If nothing changes, why did I read this? Why did I
Mhm.
sit here for 120 minutes and listen to this? What
Mhm.
happened?
Even
What is now different?
And it's also not just what how did they change, but along with that, what did they learn? Because if the
Yes.
lesson is if it's a lesson of self-acceptance where this entire character is trying to become a different person than they are, and then they realize they were fine to begin with,
Right.
they change? Arguably not, but yes, they did, because they learned to accept themselves. And that was the big change. So,
Right.
they realized that okay, yeah. And and that's not an invitation to be static, certainly. But yeah, it's like those are the questions to be asking. What are they
Right.
up against? How are they changing? What did they learn? What do they want is always is the most really the most important thing. And I think it's important for you as playwrights to be very gentle, because what this person wanted when you started writing the play doesn't even have to be the thing they want by the end of that vomit
Mhm.
draft. And if you have outlined it within an inch of its life and you start writing it and everything changes, that's what we call normal. That's what happened. Yeah, it's just like yeah. The outline is not a contract. You are just that's getting you on the road. That's your roadmap. The trip itself is very different. Just like the photo album is going to be very different once you're done with it. So yeah.
Yeah.
I've put a lot of what I had outlined previously in the chat. So for those of you that are interested, copy and paste that. For those of you that are with Broken Arts Entertainment, I will put that in our chat as well on Slack. So I'll put the full outline there, but feel free to take anything you've got there. And also the resources that Dana has provided, make sure you go. Those are great resources and a chance and opportunity for you um, to learn more about the skill. And here's the other thing too, is the playwriting skill. The other thing is you've got a lot of resources at Broken Arts Entertainment. Feel free to use them. Like we have actors to put together a quick table read. We have, so if you want to try something out, just reach out to your friends and say, hey, I want to do a table read before I submit this to somewhere, including BAE. So feel free to do that as well. We are 8 o'clock Eastern time for those of you here on the East Coast. For those of you that are not, it is 7 o'clock in Central Time Zone. It is 6 o'clock Emily time, and it is 5 o'clock Alley time. I don't think I don't know where Charles is, but I'm sure it's sometime where Charles is. Our last thing that we were going to talk about, well, we had last two things, was integrating emotional truth and craft, and then sustaining the creative life. We can certainly continue our conversation if our guests are willing, and our participants are willing to hang out. Totally understand if you're like, I've been here for 2 hours and I need a bio break. But and if that is you, feel free to take your bio break. We don't want you to end up having with urinary tract infection or something weird like that.
Compelling.
Oh, there it is. Hmm. All right. Integrating emotional truth and craft. So, and if you think about it, we've actually taken a lot of what we've talked about today, a lot of what Scott and Dana have talked about today, and turning lived experiences into dramatic tension. If you've been in one of my shows or one of the shows I've directed, you know that I live for tension. Like we go from tension point to tension point. That's how we drift through a show. So that dramatic tension is super important to me.
Yeah. I think one of the things like integrating emotional truth when you're writing about things that are close to you, um, history is a bad dramatist. Life is even
Mm,
worse. If you are writing something that is like exactly the way it happened to you, or this is exactly how
that's a good
this
point.
happens in real
Hmm.
life, there's a very good chance that the emotional honesty and truth of the matter will be evading you because you're trying to say, oh, this is how it happens in real life. And when it happens in real life, what you're writing about happens over a period of days, weeks, months, years, and you're doing it in an hour and a half. So
Hmm.
it's automatically fiction. I think it's important to remember to get to the truth that everything you write, including your autobiography, is fiction. There's no such thing as nonfiction, really. It's just what it's based on. You are telling
Hmm.
it through your own lens, and the thing is, and I think the truth of a lot of these matters. It's why a lot of science fiction and things that cannot happen, you know, the truth is a very human thing. It's not a situational thing. So it's being aware of what is resonating with your characters, and will that resonate with you, and will it resonate with your readers and your audience? And sometimes will write something, and it's just like, okay, this feels very truthful and it's very factual, but at the same time, the story that you created from it sounds like bullshit, and it might be. That doesn't mean
Right.
you throw it away. It means you go on a quest for that truth. What about this isn't working? And I think we always need to be open to the question of what about this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And really,
Yeah.
yeah, when you I think it's good to take risks. I think it's good to know that know when you're overcorrect in the wrong direction, because you'll find your way back and you'll be like, oh, it's this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a room where a writer said, but this really happened. This is exactly how it felt to me. And it doesn't work though. We're all
Yeah.
sitting there trying to tell you as nice as possible, it's not working.
Oh,
So
you're
the
nice
tension
about it.
comes, yeah, from the
Mm.
fact that the personal truth and the dramatic effectiveness are not always the same thing. And I
Yeah.
love that you hit on that. When you said that, that just really struck me because I've heard that so often. And I guess I've never really heard it articulated that when we're trying to translate our lived experience into a dramatic structure, sometimes it does not work. And we
Yeah.
need to take artistic license to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate and broaden our perspective
Yeah.
in our meaning making there. Yeah.
Life is unstructured. History is unstructured. And your play should not be, even if it seems random, even if it's abstract,
Yeah.
if it's an abstract structure to it. Something is happening. And I think that, you're not writing a documentary. And even documentarians use a structure. So
Right.
yeah, there has to be a skeleton to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a blob. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah. It's hard because what you're saying is like, the play itself needs the structure, conflict, clarity in order to communicate the truth the author is trying to relay. And feedback is not meant to diminish their personal truth, but we're trying to help each other to translate that truth into something that audiences can digest.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've lived it, we might have the blinders on
yeah.
because we already have processed it and understand it and know how it's going to play out. But they're discovering it moment by moment. And if it doesn't make sense with dramatic clarity, you're going to lose them. It doesn't matter how good that hook is, the idea is, the concept is, you will lose them if you don't know what you're doing in terms of the things that Joe outlined for structural components. Know your enemy, and then you can break it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And also when you're writing something like a solo show that's even an autobiographical solo show, or a character in your play who is based on you, and this is based on your experience, that's not you. That's a
Yes,
character.
can't be.
That
Right.
that person is actually a complete fiction based heavily on your experience, but the totality of you is not going to fit on that page. In your 12-point Courier Times New Roman font or whatever fabulous font Ali Cantor uses.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. And again, Ali Cantor, don't people watch her, read her, listen to her. Don't try that at home.
No,
But
she's a celebrity here too.
yes,
So
Yeah.
indeed. And talk about there is that sui generis. There is no one like her. But that's the thing. You can really just what was the thing? Yeah, yeah. Make sure that you treat your story as a story you're telling and not something that you are like trying to recount. You're not recreating a transcript. So,
Hmm.
unless it's your characters yammering at you and you're just like, shut up, just slow down, slow down, slow down, because sometimes that when you're in the zone that happens.
Mhm.
But yeah, just really I mean, getting to the emotional truth of the matter is really about creating good fiction and about creating good struggles and what pain and joy and longing and desire and whatever corny emotions. Don't be afraid of the corny emotions that your characters can relate to, because that's what we're going to relate to. And the more closed off your character is, chances are the bigger their feelings are, and they need that to be that way, just like people. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can and again, there are a million ways to do it, and don't be afraid to do it wrong. Because we all that's how it all starts. It should be bad at
Yeah.
the beginning.
So I love that quote. My quote now I'm jotting down on my Scott Sickles quote. Treat the material as a story you are telling, not a documentary you are recreating.
Okay, I'll take it.
That's some good information, because it's
Love
true,
it.
because
Yeah.
you won't be as personalizing the feedback that you get then too. And
Yeah.
I also hesitate in telling people how close you are to your story. I don't necessarily
Mm.
find that relevant. It depends on your circles, it depends on the intimacy of the group that you're in and all of that, but there should be some discretion perhaps there, because if we're going to get feedback, might that be skewed by their understanding of your um, uh, level of connection to the particular piece? I don't know. It's something to consider. Sometimes yes, maybe sometimes no, or somewhere in between.
I mean, going from that, maybe a good question to ask the playwright who is mired in their own experience is, what if this happened to someone else?
Mm,
Write that, because it did. It's not happening to you. It's not happening to the playwright. It is happening to someone else, their character. But it's just like the way to reframe it. It's just like, instead of writing this as something that happened to you, write it as something that happened to someone else.
yeah.
And and then maybe that is a way to kind of break through it. It's certainly an exercise. I mean,
Mhm.
as with
Yeah.
anything that we're saying, like, it may work, it may not. And it may work sometimes, and it might not work other times. Your methods are your own, and what works for you and what resonates with you is your own. And again, when you write something, you might, it's it could, there will always be someone who it doesn't resonate with, and there will
Yeah.
be people that it does. And that leads me to a bit of caution. um, Say you're in a room and you've just had a reading of your play, and there are 30 people in the room, and 29 of them are like, yeah, this thing confused me, and this one person's like, well, I think it meant this, and that's exactly what you meant. And I've seen playwrights be like, yes, yes. It's just like, okay, well, there were 29 other people here who you left
90.
out in the cold. Yeah, it's just like that. No, that doesn't mean you did it right. That means that one person caught the thing, and you want to
Yeah.
be more average than that.
Yeah,
What,
that's fair.
3% isn't a good success rate?
Not for this.
That's fair.
I will say another thing that I keep hearing over and over again, and I think this is very important, is that to get better at this craft, this skill, right, it takes repetitions. Like, you've got to just keep writing and writing and rewriting and writing, and it's not something that you're not going to create the next Pulitzer winner on your first, second, or even your 100th try. Like, you've got to just
Yeah.
work and work it.
Yeah.
So this was Danny, you might remember this. I think because it was on Playwrights connection, where someone asked, Okay, the next thing that happens in my play is that they leave the house, get in their trunk, and drive 400 miles to Santa Fe. How do I put that into stage directions? And the responses were so kind when I checked back a few days later when I was able to look at it again. Because I was like, I did not, I was like, what are you fucking doing? And it's just like, yeah, the out of office, boom, it was done. But the thing is like, I mean, it's like your stage directions are what we see on stage. And sometimes it can be like helpful context things when you're dealing with a lot of whatever. But it's just like, okay, well, how are you presenting this 400-mile drive on stage? And as someone who's actually produced to play in a very small space with a play called Soundtrack to Cezanne by Gary Giovanetti, there's a high-speed car chase on the highway in the middle of this play. We did it in a 30-seat black box, and it was fucking stunning. It was great.
Nice.
But yeah, what you can do with signs and assistant stage manager walking across with traffic signs and a great soundtrack and two people in swivel chairs, it's great. But yeah, and that's the thing. You feel free to be theatrical. Just know what think about what it's looking like on stage. And also remember that what it really looks on stage is someone else's problem. So yeah,
that's true.
I love that.
Not your budget.
That's the best part. It's not. Yep.
Like,
figure it out. I don't know how to. Yeah.
I have a meteor, a crater, and a shockwave. That's Swenson's problem.
100%. 100%. And I will figure it out. I will figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love some of the comments on social media too when people are asking for advice. Like and it's amazing how many people are experts. And one of the things that we talk about at Broken Arts all the time is how, look, let's just be humble. Let's understand that we're not the experts. In fact, when it comes to our readers, I encourage them not to think of it as being an expert at plays or the structure of plays, but instead stories. Like, I just want the best stories. That's what we want to produce. But
if you are online and a playwright online in an online community, there's something that happens often that I want to encourage you not to do. And that is, hey guys, I have a new draft of my play. Does anyone want to take a look at it? You do not know who these people are. Do not let them in your house. Give it your play to your child, to a random person to expect.
I know.
I'm like, no, don't do that. Find a dramaturg. You could find them find established playwrights who can recommend people who will give you great feedback on your play. There are services there, but don't be like, hi, anybody who's here, you don't know who these people are.
I have two dramaturgs that reached out to me and said, what do you have at the bottom of your closet that you're not working on right now? I'd like to take a look at those things. I'm like,
oh, that's nice.
Right? I was like, what? Randy knows one of them. But it was like, I'm like, yeah. How many do you want me to send to you? I'll send them all. The whole bottom of my closet is full of these things. Go back to outlines though. I had this thought, and I know as we're kind of going all over the place, but that's where my mind's working right now. But to go back to outlines, like one of the things that I do, I have at least 4 shows that I'm working on at all times, writing wise. And if I don't have outlines, I don't know how to pick back up a show where I'm writing it. So I've got 2 different series that I'm writing. I've got a full length that I'm re-digesting essentially. And then I was commissioned to write a play for Savage Wonder. So a short play for Savage Wonder. And so I'm like, I've got all these, if I don't have outlines, I'm going to get so lost in writing. Like there's just no chance. So another testament to writing an outline first.
Yeah, well, definitely. And the things that you generally write are very intense, episodic world creation. We all create worlds, but you create new worlds. And so that takes a lot more brain bandwidth than I have. So I think you might need to jot down some things. I think that's fair, Joe.
Yeah, because the one play that I wrote, it's the weirdest full length I have that I wrote without a preliminary outline. Is my play Seaside Tragedies, and that was part of a challenge. A friend of mine was, she's like, I'm writing this full-length play, and it's the only play that I've ever written without an outline. And I was like, maybe I'll try it someday. And then I'm like, flouncing about, and then just like, oh my goodness, I have an idea for this. And I started writing it without an outline. And then of course, like immediately, like the character who was most likely does not turn out to be the protagonist. It's someone else. And then all of a sudden I'm writing about all these things I care about in these characters. And then the worst thing happens. I start getting ideas for what needs to happen next. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to outline this. And then I'm like, can I outline now? And she's like, oh yeah, it's just starting without one. I'm like, oh, thank God. It was just like, so I did outline the rest of it after I'd gotten started, but it was just like, oh my goodness, because I was like, I was not going to be able to pick it back up and know where I was going if I hadn't written them down. Interestingly enough, though, we was talking about world building. Bella Poynton, a wonderful playwright, writes a lot of science fiction plays, and she does not outline first.
What?
Bella does not outline. Because I did a Zoom call with one of her classes, and she's like, "You outlined, really?" I'm like, "Of course." She's like, "I never do." I'm like, well, I guess we have nothing more to say to each other, but yeah, it's just she's wonderful. But Dr. Bella Point. But yeah, we had a great little chat about outlining. But so really, it always comes down to whatever works for you, because it's like outline or not. Whether if you're one of those people, it's like anyone who tells you that you're not a writer unless you get up every day and write something, at least something every day, is an asshole. Don't listen to them. You can write whenever you write. I don't write every day. I go weeks without writing, and I'm good. It's like I think Tom Clancy is one of those people. If you don't write every day, then you're not a writer. Well, I guess I'm not Tom Clancy. I'm like and one time someone said that to me. I'm like, well, and this was early on. I think I had I just got like one check from Samuel French for my first publication. This is in the 90s. They're like, well, it's like if you don't write every day, you're not really a writer. I'm like, well, it says I am on my tax return. So.
Right. I love that. The definition of, if you're a writer or not, that's a lot of conversation in our online groups. Am I a writer if I haven't been produced or published or this? If you're a creative, you're a creative. And so lean into that and stop worrying about other people defining you, right? Like they're always going to have a definition, right? And I know the Artist Way does that, where it says you should write. It's very prescriptive, and some people love it, and some people just don't find favor with it. Creativity isn't just at the moment of writing. It's all encompassing. So we can really shit on ourselves if we're going to hold ourselves to some standard that we're not going to meet.
Exactly. I don't like the term aspiring writer. An aspiring writer is someone who hasn't written anything yet, but is planning to. If you've actually written something and you are continuing to write things, then you are a writer. You might not be any good. So many people are not. There are so many. There are plenty of people who, like, if you're an aspiring playwright and you haven't written a play yet and you're going to, then once you start doing that, you are a playwright. And especially after you finish, after the first time you legit write end of play on your very first thing. And if you don't do anything after that, you have been a playwright. It's just like, are you still writing plays? No, but you are a playwright. So it's just one of those things. You've done the thing. And that's true. And also I think if you're asking yourself, like, should I be doing this? Should I be an actor? Should I be a writer? Should I write this play? Don't do it. See what happens. If you don't do it, if you decide not to do it, then if you're like, oh, should I? And then you don't, and you never end up doing it, then you have your answer. And if you decide, well, I'm not going to do it, and you do it anyway, then you really have your answer. Yes, you are. If you're questioning a choice that is based on a deep-seated that should be based on a deep-seated passion, then the chances are, just because you're questioning it, the answer should be no. Unless you're like, do I have the stomach for this much rejection? And sometimes, it's just like someone I know actually said it was the funniest thing. She's like, you know what? I'm moving back home. I've been in New York 3 months. It hasn't panned out. And I'm like, oh my God, 3 months. That's adorable. But it's just like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And that doesn't mean it's not for you someday. You might be like, oh, this isn't me. I don't have any good ideas. And then one day it just hits you. And you can't plan for that.
Yeah.
Haley said, brought up imposter syndrome, which is a lot of what we're talking about right now. And I would say this, like, I mean, I struggle with it too, but the thing that I try to do is I try not to feed it. I call it the imposter monster. I try not to
Yeah.
feed it. And some of that's just surrounding yourself with Hannah Lita Frades, essentially, and people like Hannah who just love your work.
The funny thing about imposter syndrome is I was like, yeah, I have imposter syndrome too. Whenever I question my abilities whenever I don't get accepted, don't do well. And then it's like, oh, that's not imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is like when you get the acceptance and you think, oh, everyone's discover I'm a fraud. And I said,
Yeah.
Right.
that has never once happened to me. There is not a single achievement I have ever had that I didn't, that my response wasn't, why isn't this happening more often? Why isn't this happening every goddamn day? I deserve this. I worked hard for it. And it's just like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess I don't, I guess I'm one of the assholes who doesn't have imposter syndrome. I'm just sorry. But it's just like, yeah, I talked to Bob LeBlanc about this, and I said,
Oh
I
man,
think part of the
Bob.
reason, because Bob is my brother in ADHD, and it's like, I'm like, we're both going to be in Pittsburgh this August, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't wait, I'm going to be Bob.
I'll be there.
Hug of his life. But it really is a matter of like, because growing up the way I grew up and being told constantly that any achievement wasn't good enough, I had to like my fight back. Like I won a speech and debate tournament once, and my father's first question is, was the person who won last week there? No. Well, then it doesn't count.
Mm.
I was told that my victories did not count. And if I didn't, and actually, I was told, it's like my father said to me, I don't know why you do this if you're not winning every single week. And it's just like, yeah, so that's where my standards come from. These things affect you. So it's just like, so I think like growing up, with the RSD, but also being told that like none of my victories matter. I had to take a stand. Yes, they do. So it's just like, so that's the pathology of not having imposter syndrome. It's not having it doesn't come from a great place either. But it sucks. Yeah.
I try to think of it as part of the process, because if you think about it, you never get imposter syndrome from doing something really easy. It only comes up when you're doing something meaningful, right? Or when you're stretching beyond your limits. So it's part of the creative process. Lots of us have it, probably everybody to some extent. Scott has reframed his into something else, but the underpinnings are there. And it doesn't come up when you're doing something easy. So it is a part, the confidence comes with the experience too. And we may always feel that. And just because you feel it doesn't make it true. I say this all the time to my clients. You can feel something very strongly and it does not move it to the truth category. You can feel like you don't deserve the seat in the room. It does not make that true.
Yeah.
So
that fits so many situations. Yes, indeed it does. Yeah.
Well, accepting the win, that's a tough thing. Like for some of us.
Yeah, I still have a problem with that. Accepting a win. It's jarring to get a win. I said to a friend of mine, she's like, you have to take the win, and I said, I understand that getting this 1 page play published is a win. I wouldn't call it a triumph.
Reshape the win.
Let's not go crazy here.
Yeah. And holding on to the win, I think, like I can feel the win at times, but then it's very short-lived. But it's like no matter what it is, it's very, for some reason, it doesn't last as long as those rejections last. I can still recall all of those, but the wins, boy, do they go through that system.
Yes, yeah. Wins, victory is fleeting. The loss is forever. I think you're going to do. You're doing We Are Cranston, aren't you, Lisa Deladrina Ferenz?
We are. Yes. Yeah. It's already done.
The best
it's already
play
done.
about taking them, because it's just like it's winning in the most horrible circumstances.
Yes.
Listen. So ironically, Steve Mize plays Coach Howard in that.
Oh, God.
And Steve Mize was on General Hospital for a couple of episodes.
Oh, really? Oh, I think you mentioned. Yeah.
So there's a fun little connection there. But We Are Cranston is it's the worst. It's the worst in the best possible way. But it's
like, oh my God, like if Harry from Mittens in July, because I don't think we can ever have a conversation about your audio dramas without mentioning Mittens in July. If Harry from Mittens in July entered that to enter Mayor Cranston, the situation would not get worse. It would just stay the same in a different way. It's just like, oh my God. It's just yeah. But that's a great play about like the difficulty of accepting the win because oh
man.
God. But,
Could you imagine if Evan Boffman and
I'm
Lisa
afraid
got
to imagine
together?
the end of that sentence. Really.
The combination of We Are Cranston and Harry from Mittens in July, and have Harry come out of Howard, that would be just incredible.
Oh my God, yes.
I'll be thinking of that often now.
Oh,
the correlation there.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
I haven't been that unprepared for anything since Showgirls. Oh my God. I was listening to Mittens in July while I was like taking a nice stroll through the neighborhood. The number of times I stopped. Just like in the middle, I think I listened to Reanima on that same walk, and I was just like I think I may have stopped in the middle of the street at one point in time.
Got to be careful of those obstacles.
Yeah, but I think actually both of those plays are really good examples for folks to listen to when they want to write something weird, or if they want to write something that is just like uncomfortable and off the charts, and how to do it, like how to take a bit of inspiration, a tiny bit of inspiration, and develop into something that is a full story in a very short period of time. Because you know, and especially with Mittens, when you think it's one thing and it turns out to be a whole other thing. Memorable. Yeah, I'm gonna forget my name before I forget that play. Oh my God, yeah. And as with anyone who writes anything that disturbing and weird, it's always the quiet ones. Evan is the nicest, calmest, sweetest, lovely person.
So true.
Oh, Evan. It really put because he had two shows in that in that anthology, and the other one was just normal in comparison, and that was
the one.
The other one was a very nice memory. Very nice memory.
Oh, I don't know if I need to make
it was
sure
the first one. It was the first one in the anthology. But yeah, I mean it's weird also, and it's very touching, but but compared to Mittens in July and pretty much anything else I've read from Evans, it's
I was in a 1 minute play festival with a play of his, and his play was called My One Front Tooth, and it's about a narwhal. And I'm
okay.
And I read the entire 1 page of it, and I'm just like, wait, where is the horrifying twist?
Oh no! What?
Oh no, he actually did write this for children. These children are going to be unscarred, and that is very irresponsible of you, Evan.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts. And any questions that might be out. Wow, there's 9 new things. Here we go. Final thoughts.
I would say my final thought would be, just keep nurturing the creative energy within you. Keep exposing yourself to wonderful works and other playwrights and these types of conversations, and read whatever you can, because that, I think, is the greatest teacher. Learn what you love, learn what works by just watching it on a stage or reading it or listening to it. You start to pick up what works and what doesn't work. When do you lean in and when do you lean out of a piece? Even your own piece. You might think it's genius. When did you get bored? I have a piece that I wrote for a theater company that likes very heightened language, and I love heightened language, and I fell asleep 3 times reading this 10-page script, and I was like, but it's geniusly beautiful. And I was like, I can't even stay awake in my own piece. It's time to let it go, Dana. Really. It's not that great. Don't be afraid to kill your darlings. Don't be afraid to be your own worst critic and be honest with yourself.
Yeah, that's what I had this play in grad school, and it was absolutely not working, and it's just spinning my wheels. Ultimately, it turned out okay, but it's not something that will ever see the light of day on NPX. And it's just a mass of lessons. But my director called me in and sat me down, and it was a long play. It was at least 2.5 hours, and he made me read the entire thing by myself. And if you want to find out what parts of your play are working, read the entire thing to someone else by yourself. Their reactions will tell you everything, but when you're just like, I was actually begging him to let me stop and he refused. I was just
man.
like, oh Christ, yeah.
No.
It was also a 3-act play. It was like an act 2 was the problem. So I actually fixed act 2, and act 3, which was working like gangbusters before, didn't work at all with the new act 2. So I had to rewrite 2/3 of the play.
Oh,
My
man.
thesis play. I'm lucky I graduated, but yeah, it was yeah. But yeah, that's a great way, and it's like I've never done it since, but I strongly recommend if you really want to know how your play is doing, read it aloud to yourself. If your jaw gets tired, yeah, especially from yawning.
That's great advice. Awesome. Good stuff. First of all, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Dana, for joining us. Dana is also a wonderful resource internally. She is our Director of Leadership and Development with Broken Arts Entertainment, since that's all we're left with right now is Broken Arts folks. And Scott is one of our celebrity writers, so to speak. And we may or may not be putting a show of Scott's into Loved Ones Season 3. So stay tuned.
Yes, I can't wait to find out too. So
the anonymous process works. A lot of it's because we really just go after the best stories with Broken Arts Entertainment, and Scott writes a lot of really great stories. So yeah.
I do want to for this acceptance story. I got an email from this theater in New Jersey, and they're like, congratulations, we would like to do these 5 of your short plays in our festival. And I wrote them back and I said, hi, thanks for the email. I think there's been an error. You said you want to do 5 of my plays. I think this was a copy paste issue. And they said, oh, no, you sent us 6 plays and we want to do 5 of them in our festival. And my first reaction was, what the fuck was wrong with the other one? So I'm just like, the other one was way too long, but it was, and I have to say 4 of their productions were wonderful, and the other one we still need to discuss. It's been 5 years, but
I mean, Savage Wonder did they did Just in Time, and then they asked me, "Is there a sequel to this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have a second show," so I gave it to them, and they did the shows. Yep, that's
nice.
They did the shows, and yeah. And they still want me to write more for them. So I was like, all right. But I was not happy with what they did with my shows.
Oh, yeah, that's rough. That is.
I'll be editing this part out of this.
And actually, well, it's just the thing is that as a playwright, your end goal is for your work to exist when you're not in the room. Mm-hmm. You remember 99% of working playwrights today are dead. So you don't even have to be alive. But the thing is the play needs to exist. And that's the thing. And if a really great problem to have is, oh, they're doing my play and I can't go see it. It's happening without you. And there's nothing, I mean, it's like, there's nothing better than like getting an NPX recommendation or a rights request, or someone even finding out that someone somewhere in the world did your play without your permission, because it's just like, okay, well, I'm angry and you need to pay me for that. But isn't it great that I've reached people?
What a wonderful reframe, Scott. I love it.
I found out that on like 2010's World Theater Day, like a play of mine that was like on the Carnegie Mellon English server was done in Lebanon. They had a gorgeous poster.
Look, I mean, I don't think not all of us could be John Maybe and just be somehow at every single production of your own show, which I don't even know how he does it.
He had to zoom into Binghamton, but he showed up electronically. But yeah, John,
no way.
Yeah. John and I both try to get everywhere, but I can't get everywhere.
Right. So.
If you want to be really jealous, let John show you their writing room. They have a beautiful setup that will make you cry on the inside. So if you're into
their house is literally made of candy.
No,
just like and of course John can go everywhere. He's an elf. He's a magical creature. He tells
right.
Is that a secret?
Yeah, it's not a secret. Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thank you to all the Broken Arts Entertainment folks that hung out with us and participated in the chat, especially.
Always a pleasure to hang with you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. We're gonna have you again. This was exciting. This was fun.
Scott.
Yeah.
Share us with us more of your
I am
successes
ha-
and
I-
failers. They're
I am happy to
equally as
hammer at
interesting.
people. Yeah. You want me to talk? Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful evening, and I'll send this to you, Dana, and you, Scott, for approval. Once I'm done. I didn't think we said anything that was too off color.
I'm good to go.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, great. Awesome.
All right.
We'll
Take
see
care.
you until
Have a
next
great night,
time.
everyone.
Thanks. Have a good night.